Looking for a shot. There it is. It is Bedney. Touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Looking to throw downfield, and it's intercepted. Underthrown, and Kobe Savage has the pick.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Johnston in motion. Play fake. There it is. The tight end, Wiley.
Wow. Good job, Jim. Timmy B.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another third down. Plumlee in trouble. Gets away. Now he's going to run it across the 30, down to the 25. Still on his feet. Down to the 10. Almost to the 5-yard line. That's what John Rice Plumlee can do for you at quarterback.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Williams wants to fade. Stokes in the end zone for a touchdown, Oklahoma.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
39-yarder blocked. Picked up. The Cowboys, Corey Black. Hit by the turf monster, but can't be stopped. Another special teams touchdown for the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Thursday afternoon. Hope you've had a great day so far up until now. We take you up until 6 o'clock Central. And a lot to get to, including what was yesterday reported that there would be the president's meeting with George Kliavkoff as far as the commissioner of the Pac-12, and with some sort of an idea on the number. The same, day or two, 24 hours when Ross Dellinger, along with others, said there would not be anything released. That doesn't mean they don't have the numbers, but they won't release them because they want to focus on the kind of conference it's going to be, which is going to be a phenomenal year in the Pac-12. It is 3 o'clock Central. So far, nothing. It's not like they're on the clock. They can do whatever the hell they want, and sometimes I guess we forget that. But I spoke with Denver Post columnist Sean Keeler, and we'll have that today at 3:30 on his thoughts of what's happening with the Pac-12 and more. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. In the studio is also Levi Caraway, Graham Bronstein, Jack McKenzie, and Garrett Ross back from a colonoscopy.
I don't know if you had to tell everybody that, but
hey, I got probed. It's all good.
I think that's like a badge of honor, isn't it? That you. And by the way, in all dead seriousness, that's something. Prostate and that kind of awareness with a colonoscopy for the other parts of your private parts, that's important. No, seriously, especially with a lot of men watching our show.
No, it is. But no, I have ulcerative colitis, so I have to get that checked on the regular.
Okay, well, please do. Don't let that slide. So here is, from earlier today, Jason Scheer. Actually, this is late last night. Jason Scheer, who covers Arizona. From what I have been told by high-ranking source, it would be a surprise to the Pac-12 presidents if an acceptable deal is presented this week. There will be an update, and the hope that it will be more kind of, you get the opinion. You get the feeling there.
More complete than the previous one.
Thank you, Craig. More complete than the previous, at least, discussion. Then you have Dennis Dodd. Now, I know both these guys have been on the Pac-12 pretty good. It's not like they wake up, how can I piss them off today? But Dennis Dodd, no movement expected today on the Pac-12 media rights, despite reports, meetings with league presidents. Industry sources remain perplexed by who the main linear TV partner would be.
Yeah, it's just going to be more of the same until it's not, over and over and over again. Until we actually have a deal that's announced and they say this is what it is, it's going to be more of the same, more of them either supposedly kicking down the can down the road like it appears to us, or just more of these, prolonged negotiations that they've had. And, if they're not going to have anything to announce tomorrow, like they let out earlier this week, then there's nothing that they're going to hear today that's going to be ready, because if it was ready, then they could go ahead and announce it tomorrow, which would be the perfect day to do it. But now, since they're not going to be able to do that, they're just going to have to keep on and going until they get there, and whatever happens will happen. And I just, there's so many factors in this. Look, Stanford's president just had to resign, so they're going to have an interim that's stepping into these things. So there's another, one party of this who has to vote on it, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the Pac-12 right now.
He gets to keep that role, I think, until sometime in August, if not the end of August. So he's still a part of it. He just is going to be at some point the president at Stanford.
Yeah, he's in charge, or he's in that position still until his contract runs out, which is next month. So, that's not like...
Is the TV deal going to be done by the time his contract runs out?
I wouldn't bank on it given where we are right now. And there's been an incredible amount of reasons for why the delay keeps occurring. If you want to consider it a delay, some people call this just business as it was supposed to be all along, which, it's harder to spin the longer this goes on. I mean, you've got one of the main Pac-12 reporters themselves who put out there without, a gun to his head many weeks ago that if they didn't have something done by now, it would be disastrous. And he's now walked that back, surprisingly. And I think everybody who thought that there was probably going to be something that popped off this week have probably walked that back, or at least have changed their tune, which is disappointing, I think, just for all outside observers, and I think most of all for the Pac-12 folks themselves. Look, you can look at this and see people poking fun and think of Big 12 folks, shut up or whatever, or ACC folks or whoever's, making fun of the situation. But, I mean, nobody deserves to be more upset or annoyed by this than the Pac-12 fans themselves, right? So it's not like it's, ha-ha, laughing at Utah guy. Well, I guess some people are probably doing that, but it's more or less like, everybody should be kind of wondering at this point, what the hell? Nobody more so than the Pac-12 fans themselves. So, I'm sure there's a lot of that going on. It's a really interesting situation that we've arrived at this point, and tomorrow we will actually have to hear from George Kliavkoff. I mean, he will speak, and no idea what he's going to say outside of just the customary, welcome to media day and all of that stuff. But it's only a one-day event, which is unique in its own right. Most conferences have it over at least a couple days. SEC, we know this week, has it over 4 days, which I think is a bit ridiculous. I don't know about you guys, but that's a little overkill. But most are 2 days. They just have that one day tomorrow. So they're going to have to pack a mighty punch into those few hours they have, and Kliavkoff's will certainly be right at the top of the list of what people are looking forward to hearing. And I know that I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say, and we'll all hear that, and then we'll go our separate corners to figure out what all that means. But like I said yesterday, the fact that we're even here at this spot and we're still talking about them having meetings about meetings that aren't even about final results, I think is just ridiculous. And last night I was sitting here looking through various tweets and stuff, and various Pac-12 articles, some of them newer, some of them older. And particularly I was reading a lot of the San Diego State stuff, because the Mountain West commissioner came out and she spoke about letting them back in the conference, and she was very clear that the San Diego State move is for next year. That's pretty much it that you can guarantee. And she said that because she said that in so many words. It's because you just can't predict the landscape now. And, especially if you're a conference like the Mountain West, you can't really, you're not pulling the strings. You don't control everything. So she made it sound like, hey, everything's hunky-dory for right now. But after, but nothing's completely settled. And I was just sitting there wondering, and I know that there's this question that's now been asked as well of, if you're bringing on teams, wouldn't they need to be a part of the TV deal from the beginning? This whole order of business is just very confusing, of finalizing a TV deal and then adding new schools. Why would that not be in reverse order? Why would that not be figured out yet at the very bare minimum of, okay, you're going about your order the way you think it needs to be gone in, but to get to this point and you still don't even have the deal, much less the expansion part of it, I think is just, that's wild to me. And I never would have thought that, if you had asked in January of of where this would be. I wouldn't think you'd be entering media day in less than 24 hours and not have any of that part of the puzzle seemingly figured out just yet.
You mean the Pac-12, if they're working on their new media deal, that would include both San Diego State and possibly SMU first?
Yeah, why would they have not invited them and then you work on the TV deal with the teams that are going to be in the conference? Why would you work on a deal, get that deal, and then add the teams after the fact? It just seems like it's backwards to me in a way. But I get that you have to have the numbers in hand to know that you can add them and it'd be value, but aren't you negotiating with them in mind? Aren't you going to the TV partner saying, hey, and we've got San Diego State and SMU, and so you're working the deal that way, right?
Yeah, because it's different in the Big 12. Like the Big 12 can add later on because they've already made their deal.
And they have the pro rata.
And they had the...
Based on maybe who's added.
Yeah, and they also had... I mean, maybe the Pac-12 thinks that they can do that, but the Big 12 also did this knowing who at least their 12 teams would be. And if the Pac-12 would have that kind of same thing, I would think especially you'd want to add before you negotiate the deal. Or maybe you can't just because you don't know who it's going to be. You can't add them and tell them here's what you're getting because you don't know.
And that's why we've seen the retreat from San Diego State. But that part of it's just confusing to me, the order of it and how that part's working to where now, yeah, you've got the expansion piece may not even be, very firmly on the table at this point. So, yeah, it's all amazing that we're here, and I can't wait to hear George Kliavkoff tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be interesting, and obviously there will be questions, and perhaps there will be something that is an answer. We had David Ubben of The Athletic scheduled today at 3:30. We've moved him to 4:30. Sean Keeler, who wrote a column about the Pac-12, and he's the one that mentioned that the presidents would be meeting today and get a figure, or would get a figure from the commissioner, George Kliavkoff, in his column. He, by the way, I had a chance to visit with him earlier today on the timeline and his reporting and what he expects. So we'll have him today, 3:30. Travis Brown covers A&M at 3:45. Phil Steele, Paul recorded the great Phil Steele, and part of that today, and then also some tomorrow. Craig's off the radar. Mickey Spagnola's kind of tentative with an engagement or a conflict that he might have in the 5 o'clock hour, and Paul's top 5 also is in hand. Now,
and the Pac-12 media poll just dropped.
That Garrett just gave it to you. There you go. The Pac-12 media poll is up. And again, this is a conference that could just be fantastic. USC, no surprise at 1. Washington, Utah, the two-time defending Pac-12 champion Utah Utes are 3. Then there's Oregon, Oregon State, not sneaky good, they're good. And then also UCLA at number 6, then Washington State, Arizona, Cal, Arizona State, Colorado with Dion, and Stanford at number 12.
Yeah, and that, Arizona's a team that a lot of people think is on the rise as well, but those top 7 are all really, really good teams. Really good teams that could make waves, and that's going to be interesting when it comes down to if this was a 12-team CFP year, the Pac-12 would be lapping this up. Which I'm sure they should be excited about because this is going to be a really good season for them.
If they stay intact, they still will, won't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not intact because USC and UCLA are leaving. So as far as this group of teams, you've got – if this is a 12-team year, you could bank that you're going to get a couple teams in the playoff with the kind of loaded schedule you have here. But now you have to worry about, do you get teams knocked out of the playoffs because you're going to have, especially these teams at the top, trading some losses with each other.
Depending on who's playing whom, yeah, you're based on the schedule because you can't play everybody. Craig?
Well, that's what everybody thinks about the Big 12, or not everybody, but I've seen quite a few people that don't think the Big 12 will have a playoff team because they're just going to beat up on each other, which is, obviously a potential outcome. And that's a league that if that were to happen, you wouldn't really be all that surprised by it. And I think the same can be said for the Pac-12, although with Caleb Williams there at USC and how much of a favorite they appear to be, which is pretty comfortable, number 1 there, especially as first-place votes go. I mean, that's the team that you circle as a CFP team with just what they've got coming back in the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and how they've retooled during the offseason. But, yeah, Washington's going to be really, really good. Had they been atop the poll, I wouldn't have really blinked. Utah, I mean, how can you deny what they've done? And they're still, geared up to be really good again this year. That's going to be a huge challenge in the non-con in week 2 for Baylor. We get to see them up close and personal. I'm looking forward to that. And then, I mean, Oregon's, always around, and only getting one first place vote, but that just speaks to the rest of the conference for once. I think they're usually up there near the top and one of the better teams in the league. But I think that just speaks to Michael Penix and to Cam Rising and Caleb Williams, and that's just the quarterbacks, much less the other stars throughout those teams. But Chip Kelly and UCLA, they're not going to be an easy out for teams. They're at 6. Oregon State, like you said, very good team at 5. So that upper half is really good. And, there's some teams that are very big question marks, like Dion in Colorado, Dillingham in Arizona State, although he seems to really have some juice flowing through there right now. The bottom half, not nearly as – there's definitely a clear dividing line, I feel like, that you can make. But that upper half, that could be a real fight to see who emerges from that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
One of the things, honestly, is that when there were thoughts that George Kliavkoff may not mention anything about the media deal, he's going to have to answer questions or nothing would be announced. Part of that PR part was, well, we want to focus on the league and the games and the teams because we have so many good ones. And, well, that's in a way very legitimate. Now, people don't have to believe that, but they do as far as legitimate. Yes, absolutely they are. And, man, that's good. I would have been surprised had it been anyone else but USC at the top. Go back to that if you want. Look at the poll as far as the first place votes. USC with a big chunk. Utah was 6, Washington with 4, Oregon got a vote, but USC with a massive amount. If you look at the overall amount, media poll who voted, they had that looks like a big drop-off between USC at 1 and Washington at 2. But with Penix, et cetera, back for Washington, they are going to be very salty.
Well, see, I think that's why it's even more distressing that you're rolling into Pac-12 media days and you cannot give all the good news. Because right now you've got a great league. You've got a league that is going to be as fun to watch as any in the country this year, especially if you like offense and quarterbacks and numbers, because, look down the list. There's, even the 11th place team has a quarterback that people are excited about, and Shadur Sanders. So
yep.
You've got a lot of really cool things happening in the Pac-12, but you have to say, like, hey, it's going to be great. I hope you enjoy us on TV for at least this year. And then you don't know because you have all these questions about the conference in the future. So you can't even build off the momentum because there's one bad thing that's happening, and that 2 of those teams that are going to be so exciting, this is their last year in the league. And the second thing is you don't know how to tell people to watch your games in 2024.
Yeah, Texas was on top of the Big 12 poll, and that was okay because, I think everybody just expects them to be the better team in the Big 12 this year. A lot of people do. Obviously, enough people in the media to vote them number 1. But I think the fact that the Big 12 secured their future does make that transition a little easier of a pill to swallow. And I do think as far as media days events go, it's like, yeah, they're on their way out. And, yeah, a lot of the talk about 2 of the schools is the fact that, hey, this is your last year. This is the last time you're doing this, last time you're doing that. But everybody else is like, that's okay. Like, we're good. Like, we know. Like, they're leaving, and that's, a bunch of national titles and Heisman winners, especially from one school. And, we won't have those anymore. And that's a blow, no doubt about it. But as far as, like, knowing where we're going to eat dinner every day and, and all of that and where the meals are coming from, like, we know we're going to be satisfied. And so everybody can go about their business and be happy. And I do think with the Pac-12, it would have been nicer. It doesn't ruin media day in my mind for fans, but it would have been nicer to, just walk in there and say, hey, USC's expected to be great. This is the last time this, last time that, whatever. But all the rest of the schools could at least like have their chest puffed out and feel like, yeah, we're going to lose some national titles. We're going to lose some accolades. But you know what? We're going to be fine. And unfortunately for them, they probably still feel that way mostly, but they can't be 100% for sure. And that sucks for those schools involved that, you can't walk into media days and just, be fully aware of, what you're going to be asked about and what that future looks like.
What's the difference then the way they feel than the teams that are left in the Big 12 once Texas and Oklahoma leave?
What do you mean?
As far as they're losing a bunch of national titles and all that as well.
Like I just said, is the fact that the Big 12 schools know their future. Yep. They know where their meal's coming from. They have a TV deal. They know that, yes, we're losing a lot, but we have
this.
But we have
this.
That's what I was saying, is they know what their future looks like and where their games are going to be played and all of that. And the Pac-12 does not have that to fall back on. Yeah.
All right. By the way, you hear a lot about Georgia's schedule. What do you hear about Georgia's schedule, Paul?
Well, it's an easier one they've had in the past.
But they're in the SEC, right?
Yeah.
And there are some landmines. And sometimes the schedule can be beneficial based on who you're playing. Craig, you hear this, you're like, golly, it looks like it's easy. Nothing's ever easy. USC, San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, Arizona State, Colorado, and Arizona, their first 6 games. Then at Notre Dame, Utah, then there's Cal, and then Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. So the front part of their schedule allows them to lift off pretty quickly, put up, you would think, who knows, maybe there's a shocker there somewhere, but their first half of the schedule, that does seem to be not a cakewalk. It's also the way the conference schedule's set up, but that looks pretty simple.
Well, look, but I don't want to – if you told me my last 6 games were among them Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA, I'd be like, I don't know if
wouldn't you like to have seen that like spread out a little bit?
If I were USC, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if they're a great team, it's probably not going to bother them all that much, but that is a gauntlet down the stretch.
It is.
Look, just comparatively to Georgia.
Notre Dame will be ranked by then, you would still think, no matter what. Utah, Washington, Oregon, and most likely that's 5 of the 6 will all be inside the top 25 and perhaps even much higher.
And look, I know that rankings change and things change throughout the year, but Georgia only has one stretch where they play back-to-back ranked teams right now, and that's Ole Miss, who's preseason ranked 22, and Tennessee at 11, which is going to be tough. I mean, it's a tough stretch, but until that point, which is 2 of their last 3 games, they don't have to play, back-to-back, tough teams, all season long.
All right, Sam Bradshaw is our rain man, and he comes up with these numbers, and this is maybe, before you put it up, Garrett, okay, it's up. This may be the best image I've seen. Put it up now, Garrett. This is what he is saying. Colorado, since they left the Big 12 in 2010, there was an exit fee of like almost $7 million. And then every year after that, what the Big 12 paid out to each individual member school and what Colorado received being a part of the Pac-12. And the end number is nearly $70 million. Now, I know there's also people will get into the academics and fundraising and all that. This is about athletics. They have been shortchanged by leaving the Big 12 when they did by $67+ million based on the numbers through the 22-23 season. This is not just the football media deal. This is all of the income revenue each team would bring in from the Big 12 and or the Pac-12.
That's another reason that you would think that Colorado would be a prime candidate to leave, just because they thought they were getting one thing in the Pac-12 and they didn't. And nothing like, tell me a good thing that's happened to Colorado in the Pac-12.
Well, you see, like if you have teams like Nebraska who's fallen into mediocrity, they can at least say, yeah, but we're making a lot of money, right?
Yeah, I mean, so not only did your football team get worse and stop contending regularly for the conference title, it lost money too. So, basketball is nothing to write home about. So the move to the Pac-12 for Colorado, just has not worked out.
No, it hasn't. And, I was trying to sit here and search while you were talking for the quote I saw from yesterday from their AD or their president, who was reiterating that they are waiting to hear on an offer. I don't know if you guys came across that or not, but one of their league officials was basically regurgitating what was said a few months ago about they're waiting to hear numbers and their plan is to be in the Pac-12 and just reasserting what we've known all along. So, I mean, yeah, I get the point of why they would potentially leave, but I don't know. If you're really at what seems like an end game, like I can't see the Pac-12 being able to say, you know what, no, by New Year's we'll have a deal. Like I think that's when everybody be like, all right, this is ridiculous. But we're here. It's media days. They're dangling this carrot. We don't know what's going to be said tomorrow as far as, how close this thing is or not. So if you're on the verge of that meeting, you're not going anywhere. And that was made clear by comments yesterday. But, yeah, I mean, they've clearly lost a lot of money. I don't know how sustainable that is. I don't know enough about the university's finances or their goals or, how all that fits together. That's not a part of it that I pretend to be an expert on. But, yeah, $70 million over that span, that's got to be a bit of a tough pill to swallow. Now, maybe some of that's offset by those other things that I don't, pay as much attention to. But that is, some ammunition for why they would potentially be looking around. Although, we're here. There's a talk tomorrow, apparently. We're certainly going to hear from the commissioner, and I think it'll be very interesting to then, collect all of whatever comes out of that and then, go from there, because I think there is, a pre-media day kind of cycle that we've been on, and then whatever takes place at media day or in that meeting, there will be that post timeline that I think we start to kick off, and that one could be a little bit more electric just because, time's starting to really wind down a bit on the overall clock. So, that's not surprising. I mean, it has been a very mediocre run for them out in that conference. I don't know if it would have been any difference had they stayed in the Big 12. They obviously made the move they felt they needed to at the time, but I think, it's a bummer that this big year for them with their brand new coach, and he's not even going to be at media days. I mean, he's going to be, working on his health. Dion, he won't even be there. So, a lot of the attraction for Pac-12 media days, they're going to have a TV deal. No, they're not. Dion's going to be there. No, he's not. That takes a little bit of the steam out of that event, but it's only one day, so I'm sure it'll come and go, and there'll be plenty of people talking, and I'm fascinated to see what comes out of that.
I just hope it's not the Fire Fest of media.
No, it's not going to be that bad.
No. Yeah. No, but I mean, it's kind of a bummer where you're like, we're going to do this and this and this.
Do you think Kliavkoff and his demeanor tomorrow and how he answers questions, if he does it at least positively and emphatically and doesn't just linger, does that help any at all? If there's no number,
I would hope for his sake it does. I mean,
he's the guy that said that when there were grenades, he thought being thrown at the Pac-12 from the Big 12, when he mentioned, you're right, we're not sure who we're going to add to our conference, and basically was pointing at the Big 12. Here we are a year later. No one's gone to the Big 12 other than the 4 who were coming anyway, and the Pac-12 hasn't gained anybody either. And I think that he probably looks back at that. He was pissed off. He was angry. He felt like, people were throwing darts and grenades at the Pac-12, and he kind of fought back. That was probably a little bit of a weak moment, though, because it hasn't happened.
Yeah, he should have fought back, because it's his job to do and represent the conference, but he should have also maybe been a little smarter about it because he didn't have anything to fall back on. The thing that the Big 12 has always had to fall back on is but we've got a TV deal. We know what we're going to be. And so he didn't know that at the time, and he's probably guilty of being a little too optimistic. Or, maybe he will wind up being right. It's just taken so long. So that's why we haven't heard from him in a while, because the last time we did, everybody kind of ripped apart everything he said, for whatever rightful reasons or not, But if I'm George Kliavkoff and I cannot answer the question I know that you're going to ask me, I'm going to avoid that until I absolutely have to answer it, which would be tomorrow. And then I hope he comes up with an answer that allows him to, at least within the first 20 minutes of his address, move on to a second topic.
He can't just say, I can't answer that question. I don't want to. He can't.
Sure he can.
Well, I think he's got to have something with meat on the bone.
All right, here's the Colorado Chancellor yesterday, Phil DeStefano, to Denver Post. I'm eagerly awaiting to hear what the commissioner has to say, but at this point, the 10 schools are staying together and awaiting a message from the commissioner. CU's goal is to stay within the Pac-12 and have a media deal coming up shortly. That's our goal, and I believe the presidents and chancellors of the Pac-12 are together on that. This is not the first time that someone has said this. This has been the messaging all along. So if you're Kliavkoff and you got nothing in hand, why are you going to go to the media who rips apart everything that's said by Kirk Schultz, by DeStefano, by whoever else has spoken at this point from Arizona State, or Robbins from Arizona or Colorado? So, guys, I get it. There's this feel of the clock's ticking down and all that, but I really, if he speaks tomorrow and there's no updates or he skirts the issue, then I think that you start to go wait a second, it's one thing to not have an announcement. It's another thing to not have anything to really chew on. I do think that would be a red flag, but I think that depending on what he says tomorrow to those schools, if it's satisfactory enough, then get ready to keep waiting, because they don't want to go anywhere. And it would take I think just a mess of a situation, which some might argue it already is, but I think it would take a really messy situation to actually force anything. I don't feel like there's the dam's about to break, but depending on what that message is tomorrow, perhaps that would be the case. None of us know, and that's why it's going to be fascinating to hear what he has to say.
All right, John Wilner in his mailbag, the Mercury News, and, of course, the Pac-12 hotline, and coming up, Keeler from the Denver Post on a lot of things we've just discussed. In our view, there is a psychological component to the proceedings, with Kliavkoff's performance potentially impacting the confidence level various campuses have in his leadership. He is, after all, leading a process that has lasted far longer than the previous presidents than the presidents expected. That said, John Wilner takes a multitude of factors into account when formulating the point spread to the Pac-12 survival. And the most important pieces have been always options for Oregon, Washington, and the sports media landscape. Nothing has changed with the former. The Big Ten isn't adding more schools at the present. Something could be changing with the latter. The market for live sports is rapidly shifting to streaming. ESPN's move to direct-to-consumer potential, of course, delivering potential favor to the Pac-12, which has cornered the market on Power 5 football supply if they were to go streaming. So that's 5 weeks ago, John in his mailbag said, no, this is the exact quote. And I like him a lot, John Wilner. Absolute drop dead must be completed. Announced deadline for the Pac-12's media rights contract is Friday, July 21st. That's 5 short weeks away. That's when they'll have the stage with their preseason football media extravaganza.
Yep. So, again, be interesting to hear what he has to say. But everybody's, really repeating kind of the same old lines as far as waiting to hear. Now, you can take from that Colorado quote of being interested in hearing what the commissioner has to say. That's why I keep going back. Like, whatever he says tomorrow, and I don't even know how much of it we'll learn right away and how much leaks out later on, that to me is like the big fork in the road. And so, not that, like, if he says something that's not adequate, like all of a sudden you just hear, like, breaking, Colorado's leaving. I don't know if it'd be that type of immediacy, but that's an important meeting, I think, for George Kliavkoff and his conference mates tomorrow to find out where exactly they are and what exactly that looks like. And I'm just hoping that we get, some of the juicy tidbits that comes out of that.
Acadian, thank you, sir. Let's answer this, and then we come back with Sean Keeler, Denver Post, and then Travis Brown on A&M. There was a story about Nolan, their star recruit, that he might be a part of that investigation that was a part of the University of Tennessee football program. Acadian, if the Pac-12 deal is not as expected, is it the presidents of those schools who are ultimately accountable? They have been very passive from the outside and uninformed perspective.
Yeah. Look, if the conference falls apart or loses money or all that, then eventually, the boards of those schools have to look at why they lost this money, and the people who made that decision are the presidents. So, yeah, I think so. And I think part of it, and you saw it with the UCLA and the money they're going to have to throw back to Cal deal, is that you have a lot of people involved in this who are not sports people, so they have to ask questions as if this is their first day knowing these things. And so I do think that that's one of the reasons this is dragged on. I think the other thing is you've got the Big 12 was lucky enough to have 12 universities once they got the new 4 that had a singular vision about where they wanted to be, and they knew that they wanted to be together, and they knew that that was the best thing for them. I don't think that's the case in the Pac-12, because you have a bunch of schools now that, maybe they're not all in. They might be all in to the point of convenience of, well, this is what we can do now, but nobody's planning on building this in the future if they have better options.
Not one president or anyone else a part of the conference, I've heard them say they want to leave, though, right? They haven't even, like...
That's the clearest point on this, is that nobody wants to leave. Like, that's been the hammer at home since day one point. Nobody wants to leave, and anybody saying otherwise is talking out of their ass. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just been a true point all along. Nobody has been looking to leave as far as teams to the Big 12, for example. However, there is one thing that's become kind of funny in this, is there actually are Pac-12 schools that do want to leave. It's just not to the Big 12. And so for all of the the only reason the Big 12 stayed together is because nobody wants the rest of the schools. Well, guess what? The only reason the Pac-12 stayed together is because Oregon and Washington don't have Big 10 invites. So it's not really all that different in the long run. And that's the reason why both have been able to stay together. The Pac-12, because the Big 10 said, you know what, we're full. We don't need any more West Coast cuisine right now. Our bellies are full. We're good. Had they decided otherwise, this would be an entirely different story. So it kind of worked out that way for both, of just the simple matter of some outside entity not wanting more than they already got allowed the Big 12 to stay together, and that will be the same case with the Pac-12, although I know that whole Could Oregon and Washington get the big? I know that's remained out there. I haven't seen any concrete reason to believe that there's really anything behind that in terms of actual progress or movement towards that becoming something in the near future. So I think that's why you've been able to, move on along in these negotiations and feel great about, Oregon and Washington are going to be a part of this thing, because otherwise, this would be way messier than before. And just like, had it been the Big 12 and all of a sudden somebody had come calling for Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, they wouldn't be sitting here right now satisfied with their TV deal. They wouldn't have one, and they would be very much in a similar, if not worse, position.
By the way, Acadian, thanks again for the super chat. You're welcome. He also said, go Tech. One of the things about it is that there has not been yet, every administrator from the Pac-12 has said they don't want to leave. We've made that clear from the beginning. But no one has said we aren't leaving. Now, there's probably a handful of those schools we know won't, no matter what. But nobody has said we are not leaving the Pac-12 no matter what. All right, when we come back, Sean Keeler, Denver Post. He's a columnist, wrote an article about the Pac-12. He's the one that also mentioned that there would be a number or a figure or something, a scenario dialed up by George Kliavkoff for the Pac-12 and their presidents. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Earlier this week, I had that crown in my back lower, next to the last molar replaced. I had gotten that done. Chipped it about maybe 3 months ago or so, and Dr. Steve Childress, my dentist at Stonewood Dental, took care of it. Man, it feels great because it was, while the temporary was in there, you're always worried. You can't chew, you can't have meat or steak or gum, and you surely don't need to be eating anything that's kind of hard that might chip it even worse or knock it off. So that's done. Now, tomorrow, I have 2 more things to get done. One is a filling in my lower left part right here, and also a top left molar on the left side of my jaw that I think is going to take a little bit of time and maybe be something that I will be in that chair for quite some time. But I'm okay with it, no matter if it's 1 needle or 2, because Dr. Steve Childress is the man. He is unbelievable at helping me understand, and I have making up for lost ground when it comes to my dental hygiene. I brush my teeth, floss my teeth, whatever, but there's a difference. Man, there's so many things you shouldn't be eating, or if you eat too much of it, it's going to come back and decay your teeth, and I was doing that. It was terrible. And now Dr. Steve Childress has me in a position where I feel great, and after tomorrow, even though for a while I might not, I will, because that stuff is done. Dr. Steve Childress in Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. How crazy is this? 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport totals values of $4,000 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. How crazy is that? Or the 2023 Jeep Compass, get 10% below MSRP. That's right, these deals are hot just like our summer days in Texas. Remember, first responders get another $500 in savings, so come find the Jeep that's right for you and save big at Alan Samuels in Waco. Make this the summer sales event at Alan Samuels during the hot days of summer, and this month in July, get legendary 2023 Dodge Chargers or Challengers, SXT, GT, or RT models, your choice, with total values up to $2,000. Alan Samuels in Waco is the place for you to shop for your next Dodge. Shop the greatest selection in Central Texas and find the hot rod for you. Come by and visit the showroom at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. See the demons and scat packs they have loaded the sales floor with. They won't last long, as you truly have the last call models of legendary muscle cars, only at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, Loop 340 east of 84.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Sean Keeler, the Denver Post, last night with an article with the Colorado president and a pending meeting with George Kliavkoff in a possible at least number, although the reports earlier this week that there would not be any announcement of a media deal. Sean, does that contradict what we saw the reports, or is this a meeting yet again to try to figure out where they might be?
Hey, thanks for having me. I think where we left it is what you said there at the end. I think both things are true. I think this is a fact-finding meeting is basically how it was described to me Wednesday by Colorado Chancellor Phil DeStefano when we spoke, and they said there was one scheduled in the morning for presidents and chancellors and another in the afternoon for ADs because he kind of admitted he's getting a little impatient and confused about where this is going as well. Obviously, we blew past the fiscal year deadline of June 30th without anything being reported. So it sounds like this is fact-finding without any announcement expected, although it would shock me if there weren't leaks coming after one, if not both of these meetings on Thursday.
You know, you and I both know it's not a secret that there is at least heavy interest in what the Big 12 would like to do, but also understanding that the schools in the Pac-12, whether it's Colorado or whoever, name a team, if in fact they're interested. Is this almost to a point where it's so confusing, really, whatever we hear, God knows what it means?
I guess it depends on who you hear it from. I've never seen a story, and again, we've talked. Full disclosure, I'm a Big Ten alum, but I'm a child of the Big Eight, growing up in Western Iowa. I don't have a dog in this fight, but it has been fascinating to me to watch those members of the media who may have bigger dogs in this fight than me, and certainly have bigger audiences, who have gone to bat for consistently contradicting storylines, as I'm sure you've talked about.
Right.
And I know Twitter has turned into this, almost political warfare between Pac-12 supporters and Big 12 supporters who see themselves as it's like an episode of Survivor.
Yep.
And they're fighting over like the last conch shell or something. And to some degree, metaphorically, that may be true. So I've always felt the truth was probably going to be in the middle. And I think we talked last year at this time about CU and the I don't want to say gap, but the diversity of opinions, to put it nicely, that ranges from the fan base, old and young, the administrators who, again, I think want to stay. Phil DeStefano didn't say anything on the record that I hadn't heard already or didn't think he was going to say. And the stuff I think I told you guys, that the administrators want to stay. The administrators want, again, you can put air quotes if you want, the Pac-12 to work in some fashion. But here's the thing. To me, as this started getting a little sketchier into the spring, and we've waited, it's all about the number. And I asked Phil DeStefano, and some people on Twitter, bless you, gave me credit, thank you, while bashing me, for asking this question. I said, what's the number, Phil? You've gotten, according to reports from the fiscal year 21-22, whatever, $37 million for school. Where do you want to be? And what's interesting to me is he said, we want to be in a place where our average broadcast revenue per school is third. And right now, if the Big 12 has that, do they not, from 22, at least where it was, 42 to 45?
Right.
So that's what they want. Will George Kliavkoff get them that and more? That I don't know. And frankly, that I kind of doubt. And that's where the caveats and the for nows and the parsing of language comes back into play. Because I think for Colorado, for the Buffs, it's about the number and it's about sustaining that number. But it's got to be way, way off for what's pitched to them, presumably, now, while this is going on Thursday, before they make a decision. And that's probably true of Arizona and maybe ASU, Utah as well. But certainly CU and Arizona are the ones you hear the most scuttlebutt about.
Did he also perhaps say what he said in a way, and I'm not saying he wants to leave, but with what he said to you in the column you had, by the way, that was great, could that also be a preemptive, okay, it's on the table, this is what we want, but also kind of left that door open, in fact, if it's not what he gets?
I think so, yeah. I think, the words right now and for now were said. And, we know journalism in legalese language.
Yep.
We know what the word alleged means. Alleged is there for a reason, because there are lawyers and everyone is innocent until proven guilty, yada, yada, yada. I think the qualifiers were intentional. I really do think he was genuine in the sense that he wants to see. And that has been said off the record and on record by various folks to this point. I think what was newsy is they think they're finally going to see something Thursday, and then they're going to react to it. And that probably will be a discussion point Friday at those league media days, as you would expect.
What if they don't see a number today? What if it's just another meeting? Because we have seen many of them, board meetings, God knows all this that's gone on. What if there's nothing, and then tomorrow there is nothing? And I'm not saying that will happen, but just the scenario.
I think they're going to push harder to get a number. They're getting it not just from media, but from alums and probably from the bean counters, obviously, saying, look, we've got to budget things. What are we, we're a year and a half out. What are we doing here? I think those noises are going to get louder. I think they almost have to see a number soon. And not wait until the season where this narrative just keeps I mean, it's Charlie Brown in the cloud with George Kliavkoff. It's just, what is it? When's it done? When's it done? When's it done? Patience. Well, you get to a year out, which I think would be next summer, then there's, you're what are you doing here? I think there's a point where then they'll ask, what is this new commissioner doing his job? And if not, what has he been doing? I don't think it comes to that. I've had sources tell me because we feel like we're doing this story because we're kind of at one of the apex points of this.
Sure. Like
every 3 months, or if not 3 weeks, we end up running back to this. And I've gotten so many I don't knows. I was grateful Phil would pick up the phone because he said nothing but kind of give me I don't knows for about 2 months. And I think some of that's genuine. Some of that may be dissembling. Some of it may be something else. But they've got to get a number to make decisions because they can't have in a world where they already know, they've lost their 2 big breadwinners. You can't leave doubt when you've got 2 to 3 more, if not 2 to 4 more, 6 more, that are considering their own options. I don't think that's fair to the collective, and I think they're going to push to get that number sooner than later.
You mentioned the administrators. Is that presidents? Is that ADs? What about coaches? Is that different, their approach to this, of what some of those schools want compared to administrators?
Well, I mean, just CU is a great example. Colorado, again, shorthand here at CU, is a great example because where do you think Deion Sanders would rather coach and recruit? Texas, it's home. I don't think that's debatable. If they gave him a vote, he'd be like, whatever gets me in Texas more and gets me in Florida, I'm good with that. I mean, now the argument will be he can get that wherever, and you need to that doesn't apply because you're still going to get those guys because of who he is and what he can bring to the table. But does the athletic director, Rick George, care? Yeah, but I think it's also about the bottom line. I think he cares about the number. He coached there and was a staffer there in the Big 8 glory days. He played at Illinois. I don't think he has a political dog in that fight. But again, as we've talked about, their alumni base is hugely West. Yep. I think this has always been about fundraising and perception. And that's better for them in the Pac-12, assuming that the Pac-12 is in the ballpark and is together. And I think the elephant in the room is somebody else who isn't the Four Corner schools making a decision. If the Big Ten or SEC or ACC, maybe, who knows, gets frisky and shakes that dichotomy up. It's got to be a strange room when half the membership, if not 3/5 of it, has probably talked to people and is looking out the door anyway. It's very, the most interesting occurs to me, the most interesting Pac-12 network show that the Pac-12 has never done and should do, not that anyone would be able to see it, but you'd want to, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Is a reality show about these administrators and what's going on behind the scenes.
It would be a massive, the television ratings might get them a media deal. Exactly. You might force people to put the Pac-12 network on your system if you had a reality show, or let people vote on it, or told fans we'll do it old American Idol style, and you call it, decide what league you're going to join. See, all this workshopping we do, do they listen to us? No, they just kind of do what they do. Hey, we're trying to keep, look at this. We're down talking on your show, and we're thinking of ways to keep the Pac-12 alive. Look at us. We have a guy, Sam Bradshaw. He writes for our site. We do a YouTube show, and he's brilliant with numbers. He put out a graphic today that since the Colorado left the Big 12, and they had an exit fee of like $6 or $7 million, and this is not about academics or endowment or all of whatever might come, whether that's better now or not. But overall, since Colorado left, counting the $6 or $7 million exit fee, compared to what they're getting from the Pac-12 or gotten to what the Big 12's getting or gotten, they've lost close to $70 million since they left, as far as media, money, television deals in athletics.
That seems a little high to me off the top of my head, but it's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Like, if you told me at least 40 to 50, I'd believe it. You're right. I'm sure he's broken that down, and I want to see his chart.
I'll send it to you. I'll text it to you.
Send that to me because it's in the red. I'll say this. I have no doubt it's in the red, and we've talked about it. Lord knows I've written about it plenty. Larry Scott did not sell them what he actually gave them. They went in there thinking they were getting a Porsche, and they came out with the Yugo to some degree. So, but it's a Yugo with really good academics, so they're happy about it.
Okay, thank you for your time, Denver Post. At the end of today, when you go to sleep, God knows when it's going to be, you've got 4 stories to write and all this other moving parts, these other moving parts. Do you think by the end of the day, we will have a leak of whether it's 30 million, 31 million, 27 million? Do you think there'll be a number we get by the end of the day?
I'm going to lean yes, but it's a soft yes that I'm not putting my money behind.
Okay.
But there will be a leak soon. And if it's not into Thursday's cycle, it will be Friday in Vegas when everybody's there.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you really a lot, Sean. Sean Keeler, Denver Post, 365 Sports. All right, coming up around the corner, Travis Brown of the Eagle in College Station, and also Paul's conversation, part of it with Phil Steele on Baylor and the Big 12 rosters, and also a great part of the interview tomorrow about how has the transfer portal affected getting out magazines, and of course his loaded with information. When we come back, that's the 4 o'clock hour. Tickets now on sale by going to discoverwoodway.com for the first annual Father and Son Cook-Off. It's August the 5th. Join Woodway Family Center. Discover Woodway for the first annual Father and Son Cookout at the Woodway Family Center. Tickets available. You can go online at discoverwoodway.com. Fathers, sons, grandfathers, and all the special men in a boy's life can enjoy afternoon of burgers and hot dogs from Double R Burgers, which is not a sponsor of this show, but they're that great, I'm going to mention them. Ice cream from Heritage Creamery, rock climbing, bounce houses, even maybe bring the stadium in from Orlando at UCF. Double R Burgers, ice cream, and again, rock climbing, bounce houses, kickball, giveaways, and more. Join everybody, and including you, at the Woodway Family Center. It's the Father and Son Cookout, August the 5th, 11 to 1. Tickets $35 each, and you can get them online at discoverwoodway.com.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, that's TexasBeefHouse.com, and joined by Marketing Director Samantha Duvall. Samantha, thanks for your time. There have been numerous holidays, and now it's just straight up the summertime. Your thoughts about some of the specials and ideas you have?
So we still have our hamburger special going on. We're going to continue it through the end of July. When you bundle our 25-pound ground beef bundle, you can get hamburger for as low as $6 a pound. And the same with our 28-pound Wagyu hamburger patties. You can also get those for as low as $6 a pound. All of those come with free shipping in Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. We've got a lot of steaks online. People are buying up our brisket. Time to smoke a brisket. Good time to grill out. If you order and use our code SICK'EM10, you can get 10% off your order of $100 or more. And it's all grown right here in White House. We're a family-owned company. It's all pasture raised. We just enjoy what we get to do.
Family reunion, people going out to the lakes, or people just meeting or going out of town. Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate at TexasBeefHouse.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryant and at pioneersboys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is a premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements, with the members excited about what they see. New flooring, locker rooms have been redone, new painting, and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, with a new squat machine that will test your legs and their stamina. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, treadmills, elliptical machines on a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and welcome Nathan Roach. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro, the great Britt Cole, plus adult tennis lessons with Blake and Kenna, who are ready to take your game to another level. And the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website, wacotennis.com. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive next to Hawaiian Falls in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
I was just minding my own business yesterday evening, and all of a sudden, Travis Brown, and in my timeline, about Walter Nolan, a star defensive lineman, one of the highest recruits ever, and that Tennessee's investigation might have involved him. I kind of went back and forth. I just text Travis, can you come on with us? And today he is with us with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. Travis, thanks for your time. I know you just got finished writing an article. We appreciate it. So where is the end game, or do you know yet, on the possibility of Nolan being involved in the infractions at Tennessee?
Well, so I have to give credit. The original reporting is done by Mike Wilson up at the Knoxville Sentinel News up here in Tennessee. They have access to open records and things like that in the state of Tennessee that we can't access because we're not residents of the state. But yeah, they were able to corroborate different documents and talk to sources to match up some of the timeline that was in the NCAA report of infractions on one of the recruiting visits that happened during the COVID-19 dead period that also involved paying for the trip and different parts of the trip during an unofficial visit. They were able to corroborate that with Walter Nolan and his family. So good reporting by them. We were able to kind of continue on some of that and got a hold of Nolan's father briefly, and he just said it didn't happen. So that's kind of where it is there. It's a painstaking kind of reporting because it's going through a lot of documentation and verifying, backing stuff up, but that's just kind of the point it's at right now.
Travis, I guess the big story with A&M this week was Jimbo Fisher at Media Days, and as a crack team reporter that has to follow the story, how long do you think it'll take you guys to break the story of who's actually calling the plays?
I think it might be when we have a pair of binoculars up in the press box and we're seeing who has the play sheet and who's talking right before the signals get put in. It's interesting. Jimbo Fisher is. He's all but said it, but the thing is he hasn't actually said it. He said that he hopes that Bobby Petrino can be the guy to call the plays, and that it's a collaborative effort. But they did bring Bobby in to bring new ideas. And I mean, I think Bobby Petrino will be calling plays when the season starts. But it's just interesting he hasn't actually come out and said it yet. Said that that's the way that things are going to work, or provided a little bit of context on kind of how the backroom will operate on this, because it's new territory for Jimbo Fisher. He's been an offensive play caller most of his whole career, and trying to figure out that dynamic is going to be a key part of the season coming up.
Travis, just unpacking the Jimbo and just where he is in terms of, the money he's making and the results that they're getting, this Petrino thing, big recruiting classes, some of those guys fizzling out for one reason or another, and just a tough year last year. You kind of just take the whole environment of A&M football right now. As somebody there on the ground floor, how would you just sort of describe the feel as you watch them at media days? Is this a team that appears to be poised with genuine confidence and ready to surprise a lot of people? Is this a team that's a little bit unsure? What kind of a feel did you get?
I do sense a different vibe from how things were kind of at the end of last year. I mean, last year it was the first year of that big 2022 recruiting class, the one that set all the records and whatnot, and a lot of freshman guys that had some growing pains last year, whether it be on the field growing pains or off the field growing pains. But that all being said, they do have a new offensive coordinator in who, whether he's calling plays or not, is bringing in new ideas and adding another set of eyes, a different look to things, and providing some instruction. And when I asked the two A&M defensive players that were here yesterday, what looks different about the offense with Bobby Petrino, and he said there's a swagger about that. When I asked Anaya Smith, he said it's a swagger because Bobby Petrino kind of lets them be themselves a little bit more in the offense. He said Jimbo, rigid perfectionist, and there's something to be said with that, but they get a little bit of best of both worlds. They get that very high attention to detail. Not that Bobby Petrino isn't attention to detail, but he says there's a little bit of freedom. They let them kind of be themselves in the offense, and there was something refreshing about that, brought some swagger. And so you can tell that there is a little bit of a rebound. There is a little bit of a move on from last season, but we'll see if they can hit the ground running in this offense, especially if the offensive line can hit the ground running in this offense and kind of continue that momentum in the season, or if they're going to quickly find themselves in a position like they were last year, where they lose to Appalachian State, and then the season's just kind of been flexed for the remainder of the way out.
So does the spotlight, even though it's going to be shining on them and intense because of last year, but the expectations don't seem to be obviously that high. I'm not saying A&M fans don't want to see them win or that they're not a part of the conversation, but does that help in any way, or is that even right?
Yeah, I'd actually beg to differ there a little bit, because if you look at the players that A&M returns from last season, the starters, they're up in the top three, I believe, in the SEC and returning starters from last year. Yeah, they lost a lot of guys to the transfer portal, but those were second string, third string type of guys, a little bit of a depth. Now, that plays into it if they get some injuries through the season and they have to delve into that depth a little bit. But they do return a lot of guys. It's coming off of a year where Jimbo Fisher really did not live up to expectations. I actually think the expectations are very high to see how this new Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino partnership pairs together. And if it doesn't mesh quickly and they get into that 8, but especially 9 to 10 win range, that's when you start looking at what's the future of this program, and is I would think there would be some rumblings from the A&M faithful on is this really what the future should look like for A&M? But actually, I think that the bar is set pretty high for this A&M team because of what they return and because of the pressure to bounce back quickly from last year. Bobby Petrino seems to be kind of the lifeline that Jimbo Fisher has on this, and they need to produce and win some games this year.
Jimbo did mention that the quarterback competition was still open, but is that Jimbo talk for Connor Wigman's the quarterback?
I would think it's Jimbo talk. I would be shocked if it wasn't Connor Wigman, but it's really hard, as I'm sure I know y'all know that spring games it's hard to get a full gauge on what's going on there because of the personnel that's out there and the plays that they're calling. Max Johnson looked every bit as good as Connor Wigman in the spring game. That being said, and I probably do believe that it is still an open competition, but it's one that I think the deck is stacked a little bit in Connor Wigman's favor, and he's going to be the guy. I think a lot of people would be really shocked if he wasn't, especially looking back at last season when how the players were coming into last season. It did look like Jimbo Fisher got that decision wrong, going with Haynes King first and then Max Johnson before then getting to Connor Wigman, who looked like the best talent out of the three of them. I do think it is, quote unquote, an open competition, but I do also think that Connor Wigman will be the winner eventually.
Travis, is there anybody that last year was not a part of it, whether it's an incoming player and or somebody that's just grown up because they're more mature and better, stronger, whatever, and maybe have more of a chance, a name or two, without putting you on the spot, that might be someone that makes them better?
Well, I'll give you two, and first is an easy one, and that's Nia Smith. You know, he made it just to the start of SEC play. Of course, a guy that was a big name star for them, but broke his leg and was out for the whole end of the season last year. He came back, and they're a different team when they can have a Nia Smith in the offense, because he's such a playmaker. He can come out of the backfield. He can line up at wide receiver. He's a kick return threat. He's just an all-around good player, and so when he's in the lineup, it changes the whole complexion of the offense and special teams as well. Noah Thomas is actually one that kind of came and surprised him, also a wide receiver. He got the offensive MVP award for the spring drills this year. Really speedy, and Jimbo Fisher just said every day he was out there, he was stepping his game up. A name he got in a little bit last year towards the end of the season, but you pretty much knew when he was in the game it was going to be in blocking duty for running. You almost never saw him catch a pass or run a route. But this year, apparently, he has really stepped his game up. Noah Thomas is the guy that I think everyone is going to kind of have their eyes on to see how he meshes into this offense and what improvements that he made.
How long before the Reuben Owens hype train gets going?
Probably pretty early, because that's a pretty wide open battle back there in running back. I know Amari Daniels is probably the front runner there to step up, but a lot of talk. I don't know if it's going to quite be the Damon Demas hype train, which of course fell off the rails before it even really got out of the station. I think this will be a much better situation for them. But yeah, I think you'll hear a lot of clamoring, but you'll probably see a decent amount because there's not a real front runner in that group yet. So I would imagine as they go through non-conference play, all of them will get a little bit of shot to see who kind of separates themselves.
Travis, this is not, I guess it's somewhat A&M related, not directly with the team, but what's it been like to have some of the Oklahoma and Texas contingent press-wise start to make their way into the weeds of SEC Media Days?
Hey, it's fun. You know, you can't, I'm sure y'all know, you can't pass up an opportunity to sit at a lunch table and hear stories from Kurt Bowles and the likes of those guys. So it's great. I started my career in the Big 12, covered those. I know a lot of these guys, and so to have a little bit of the Western side of the SEC now flavor here it's fun and provides a little more. Probably besides someone asking Lane Kiffin if he looks like him, or it was a weird interaction in the media room. Maybe one of the best questions was one of the Texas guys asking Josh Heupel which UT is the real UT, and Josh Heupel responded, "There's only one UT, and there's only one right color of orange." So that stuff has kind of already started up and made things a little bit more fun. So yeah, as Texas folks who come from the state, it's always fun to have some compatriots around here and to cut up with at Media Days.
Travis, I want to know, in your opinion, next year the SEC Media Days will be in Dallas. Do you feel like that would have happened if Texas and Oklahoma weren't a part of the conference next year?
Man, that's the $10,000 question. That's loaded. I will say this. You go back and there had been reporting from outlets as long as 4 to 5 years ago that the SEC had eyes on Dallas for Media Days. When they first kind of started branching out and went to Atlanta that first time, there was reports. I know the Morning News for sure had a report out that the SEC was looking there. So it is something that they were looking at before. Now, it is also convenient not only for the PR and the marketing, but the fact that there is just more schools out there that they're having it in Dallas. Also kind of weird that they're pairing it right up at the exact same time as the All-Star game and batting home run derby. Home run derby and All-Star game will be the first 2 days of SEC Media Day. And, you think one of the reasons you go to Dallas is to get some of that Dallas local media and kind of incorporate them into this whole shindig. And you got to think that they're going to have their eyes fully focused on Arlington at that time. Maybe A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, all of those western side schools go on the last 2 days. But that's another little interesting factor about all of it. But yeah, I think the SEC has for a long time tried to, before even adding schools, have tried to kind of cement their footprint into Texas. I think that it makes that decision a lot more easier when there's more schools out there. And it worked for me. I'm a Dallas guy. I know all the good places to eat that I'm going to want to eat, and I can, take everybody out in the town and show them some good spots. So it'll be fun for me as well.
Hey, Travis, thank you very much. Enjoy the day. Appreciate it. Travis Brown from the Eagle. Bryan College Station covers A&M and the SEC with us on 365 Sports. Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, he didn't dodge it in any way or answer it in a weird way at all. It's good stuff from Travis. But I think the whole, everybody's hesitant to just acknowledge why they're going to Dallas for media days. I mean, he explained it, but, when it was first, it's they were still probably going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's it's not that big of a deal. Just say you're going to Dallas because now you've got, like he just explained, now you've got Oklahoma and Texas. Yeah, of course you're going to Dallas. It doesn't matter who got you there or not. I guess there's maybe just a segment of A&M people that don't want to give any credit whatsoever, to the move to Dallas, to the two new schools coming in. But yeah, it just makes all the sense in the world, and you'd almost be stupid to not do something like that, I think. And so to have A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, all there, surrounding Dallas in so many ways, and all the rest of the crew as well, that it's going to be an interesting scene and a big deal. And I think, they've certainly taken a huge footprint in Texas, the SEC, with their move. So
recruiting,
it'll be interesting to see, how the Big 12 schools in particular, and, whatever SMU is and whatever some of the others are, how that cuts into what they do, if at all. But there's going to be a fight over some of these spots, and the SEC is going to have a big claim to Dallas because of particularly those two they brought in addition to what they already had.
You wonder if Oklahoma and Texas, who always recruit well, and 1 year it might be number 2, 1 year it might be 11. Very rarely has it been below 15 or 20. It's happened. Oklahoma, you wonder. You wish you could do a poll when they signed their class of 2024 about how many of them committed to either one of those logos, traditions, blue bloods, because they're in the SEC, if they were being honest. And I would, maybe they pick up an extra 3 to 5 players. Maybe that solidifies 12 that they were going to get anyway. But there's no question there's an impact with that, and there should be. And that'll be fun to watch.
Well, if there wasn't an impact, then why are we blowing so much smoke up, the SEC? I mean, of course there is. There's got to be at least to some extent.
Yeah, but what I was saying is how much of an impact.
I know. I was trying to finish. What I was going to say is, of course there is, and I'm agreeing with you that, there's absolutely been an impact. I just don't know why anybody would be hesitant to acknowledge that was a deciding factor in why they chose Texas this time versus them being in the
LSU
Big 12.
Or
Yeah,
Alabama.
I think there's clearly a factor that comes into play there.
And boy, I tell you what, take advantage of it if that's going to help you get an extra 3 to 5 guys and keep them away from the LSU Tigers.
Good luck with that.
The Washington Commanders. News on that with Craig's Off the Radar coming up in about 30 minutes. But next, Phil Steele of Phil Steele's College Football Preview, which is a massive undertaking. Paul Catalina had a chance to record him earlier today. And part of that next on 365 Sports. Pioneers doing pipe, steel, pipe, metal. That's what they do. That's what they do. That's what they've been doing since 1943. They moved back in December to a brand new facility, bigger, better, faster, stronger. The distribution is even better, even though it was already efficient. One of the biggest changes, besides the glitz and glamour, but the hard work that they've been through maintaining, sustaining, and lasting since 1943, is the fact that what they have, pipe, steel, metal, tubing, and more, they have different lengths now available, a lot more lengths available than they had before. For example, if you went in and you wanted a certain length of pipe, steel, metal, tubing, etc., they had maybe 1 or 2 of those options. Then you would take the length back to where you were having some construction and you would cut it, or somebody else would. Or you get to another business and they cut it because that's what they specialize in. Now they have several different lengths for you. Pioneer Steel and Pipe since 1943, pioneerboys.com.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
This is an interesting year as we head into the last year of the 4-team playoff before we go to 12. We've got, conference realignment, new leagues, and, the last year of the Big 12 is going to have 14 teams. Texas picked by the media to go number 1. How do you see the Big 12 shaking out this year with 14 teams, the 4 new ones, and everybody who's come into this mix?
Wow, the Big 12, and taking you behind the scenes a little bit, David, you go back to when I did the first write-through of the magazine this year, I pretty much knew who I was picking in 9 of the conferences. There are 9 of the 10 conferences out there, and I said, feeling pretty good shape. There's only one conference that I have a tough time finding 1. I have a tough time finding 14. And guess what conference that was?
The Big 12?
Yeah, you betcha. And let's look at the last 2 years. I mean, Baylor won the Big 12 2 years ago, and TCU is playing in the national title game despite being picked in the middle of the Big 12. It used to be easy, and I even told Coach Leipold, I said, Coach, you're making it tough on me. I used to be able to at least pick Kansas last and then worry about the rest of the Big 12, and I can't even do that anymore because he's got Kansas so much improved. So it is a very tough conference to pick. But this year, believe it or not, I went with Texas and Oklahoma as the two top teams, and I didn't want to do that because I figured everybody's going to give them their best shot this year, especially like a team like Texas, which is the only one in the league of the top 6 teams that plays each of the other 5. A brutal schedule, but talent-wise, if you look at my rankings on page 138, I've got them either first or tied for first in all 8 positions. They just are a very talented team despite the tough schedule. And with Oklahoma, their defense will be improved under Brett Venables. When I went over the squad with him, it was a major priority. And last year, he runs a very complex defense through the entire thing at him. Now they're in the second year of the systems. He brought in a lot of transfers. Offensively, Dylan Gabriel is back. And actually in Vegas right now, Oklahoma is actually favored in 11 of their 12 games this year. So I do think Oklahoma and Texas are at the top. But I tell you what, if we had an hour to talk, I could make a case for Kansas State winning it. I could make a case for TCU winning it, Baylor winning it, Texas Tech winning it, Oklahoma State winning it, even UCF. And then how do you leave out an Iowa State, which was so much better than its final record last year? So I could make a case for about 10 teams winning this thing.
UCF is the one you mentioned that a lot of people think have the best odds of competing, right away in the league, week in and week out. Is that because of they probably have the best combination today of coach and quarterback?
Yeah, and overall experience, too. We can't forget about that. They're actually number 9 on my experience chart. And when I talked to Coach Malzahn, he said he's been preparing for the move to the Big 12 for 2 years now. He's been recruiting like they're moving to the Big 12. And I really like the talent they have. They got practically the whole unit back from last year, number 9 on my experience chart. And last year they lost a couple games. Remember, they went into Tulane and won. And I thought they controlled that game for pretty much. Without John Rice Plumlee, they struggled against Tulane in the AAC title game, or else they would have won it. Plumlee's back. They've got a better backup this year with Timmy McClain, who comes over from South Florida. So if any of those 4 newcomers are going to actually contend in the Big 12 this year, UCF is your team.
Phil, we cover Baylor. We've covered them for years, day in and day out. As this show has grown, we've covered more and more teams. But when people asked me at Big 12 Media Days last week how Baylor's going to be, I struggle to tell them for sure. Usually I can get, a handle on it, but they have so many new players and there's so many X factors. How do you break down the Bears coming off what was a really disappointing season last year?
Yeah, and last year they were the preseason favorites by the media to actually win the Big 12 last year and open up decent. They were 6-3. It wasn't overwhelmed with the loss to BYU. That one, the crowd, I think, played a major factor. And then the loss to Oklahoma State at home surprised me a little bit, and the loss at West Virginia. But still 6-3 after that win against Oklahoma, and it's just a poor finish to the year. I find Coach Aranda is one of the most fascinating coaches I talk to each and every year, and I always learn a lot, not just about football, but maybe about life as well. And I think he's going to get this thing turned around this season. I mean, 2 years ago, it seemed like when we got to the end of the year, Baylor expected to win those close games, and they did. And he pointed out to me that last year, maybe that same belief wasn't there, and maybe that had a little something to do with the 1-point loss to TCU, with the close loss to Texas, where it was highly competitive in the fourth quarter. And so I think that this year's Baylor team sets up better in that respect. They're stronger at quarterback. Blake Shapen's going to be a vastly improved QB this year. I like bringing in Dominic Richardson to go along with Reese and Washington and Jones at running back. The offensive line, a bit of a question mark. That's probably my biggest question mark on the team. They're more athletic than they were last year on the offensive line, but they lack experience. How quickly that unit comes together, probably going to be the key. Now, the switch coordinators on defense, they're going to run a defensive scheme more in Dave Aranda's style of defense, which I like a lot because I think Dave Aranda was one of the best defensive coordinators out there. So I'm bullish on that. And then when you look at the schedule, how many games on their schedule, Paul, do I have decided within 3 points? Utah, Texas, at UCF, Cincinnati, Kansas State, TCU, all those games are winnable and also losable. So I agree with you. It's a tough team to forecast, but if I had to say, are they going to be improved or weaker, I'm definitely saying they're improved on last year. In fact, they make my most improved list coming off a losing season, and I think this team could be a legitimate contender in the Big 12.
All right.
So there's Phil Steele with Paul Catalina here on 365 Sports. Got Off the Radar coming up next. Meanwhile, GMC Sierra is a hot truck. Reported a big increase in sales in 2023 because it is a very hot and great truck at the moment. Exceptionally nice and well-equipped on the inside. Tough and strong where it counts. Before you buy another truck, drive one at Richard Carr and see for yourself. If you want the best truck, well, you'll see that you'll want a GMC. Right now, also ranked #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers Buick. Offering a luxury SUV without the luxury price are the Buick model. The Buick models right now save $2,000 on a 2023 Enclave, Encore, or Envision in stock. Plus, well-qualified buyers get 2.49% financing and no payments for 90 days. So there's just a couple of the offers that you can check out when it comes to Richard Carr, which also has a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks, many of them under $20,000 as well. And there's also the award-winning service department standing by to keep you on the road. Go to the website, richardcarr.com, to see their service specials or to set an appointment for quick and reliable service. So check out the dealership, in business for 24 years in Central Texas, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma. And they have to come here. They're used to lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Pac-12 Media Days tomorrow. We have seen the Mountain West Conference have theirs. The Big 12 has had theirs. And, of course, the SEC dragging theirs out. And I don't say that negatively, but they're now, of course, wrapping theirs up in Nashville, Tennessee. So David Ubben, theathletic.com national college football writer, joins us on 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and Paul Catalina. David, thanks for your time. The Pac-12, as you know, has had a summer or even winter, spring and summer, where a lot of questions are surrounding whether or not what their media deal will be. And they have their media day tomorrow. What do you expect George Kliavkoff to say, even though there are reports that he's not going to mention anything about the media deal as far as any kind of number or deal?
Stop me if you've heard this before, but they're close. I think you can hear we're very close. I feel like that's going to be the word of the day at Pac-12 Media Day tomorrow.
David, do you think that even though they say they're going to have a deal to announce, that George Kliavkoff will have something of substance to say about it, or that he's going to have to kind of run in circles around it?
No, I mean, there's nothing to say. At the end of the day, you're going to have to find a number, and that number is either going to please your membership or not please your membership. And if it doesn't, I think there's a decent chance the league's winner. So obviously, it's a huge deal. Our shop reported earlier this week that they have a new person that was not participating, or a new entity that was not participating in the rights deals before. So we'll see if that affects it. It's always good to have, more people bidding for your services. That always drives up the price. So we'll see. But, at the end of the day, they'll have the number at some point, and it's either going to be good enough or not good enough. And there's no way to really say anything. You can sort of say, well, we're confident, we like what we have, we're confident in the future of the league. But of course, they're going to say that at the end of the day. You got to have the rubber meet the road at some point, but I don't think we're at that point just yet.
So, David, going into Pac-12 Media Days, I mean, they obviously, if this wasn't a story at all, they'd have plenty still to talk about. Just, the group of quarterbacks, the teams that are going to be ranked in the top 25, things of that nature, USC and UCLA's big exit. Where's kind of your focus or your points of interest entering Media Day, I should say, not Media Days for the Pac-12?
I mean, I think that this is going to be the league that has the best quarterbacks in the country by a wide margin. There's going to be a lot of points scored in the Pac-12 this year. It's going to be a really fun league, in football and games that are worth staying up for. So I think you have to kind of lean into that. I mean, obviously, Caleb Williams is a headliner, but you look at Michael Penix, you look at Bo Nix. We'll see what Dante Moore can do, obviously. The Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders pairing at Colorado is interesting in its own way. So there's a lot of great quarterbacks. There's going to be a lot of great football played, and the Pac-12 does have that going for it right now.
Texas and Oklahoma join the SEC next year. They still have a year in the Big 12. David, what was, in your opinion, perhaps the biggest storyline coming out of the SEC's 4 days?
I mean, it was a pretty boring few days. I mean, I think, coming in, certainly how Georgia would handle about their offseason was sort of the most interesting thing, and nobody really pressed them on that, so we didn't get a lot. I think, Lane Kiffin obviously made some today, talking about, all of the NIL issues that have befallen the sport, but I don't think he's saying anything that anybody hasn't said before, so I don't think that's really groundbreaking. I mean, it was a pretty quiet week overall.
Yeah, David, Georgia Kirby Smart did address that, and I know that there are some things going on at the AJC right now that, might alleviate some of the pressure on them when it comes to the reporting of that. But Is this a case of, look, you've won back-to-back titles, you're kind of a rock star team now, and this is what he's going to have to continue to deal with?
Well, I mean, hopefully you're dealing with fair reporting if it's going to be critical, certainly. I think I get their frustration with that. And a lot of their points, when you have sort of a point-by-point refutation of a lot of the facts, and, when it turns out that the core fact of the sexual assault story is seemingly not something that can be corroborated, where you have, a claim that they have 11 guys that faced, allegations of sexual assault or violence against women. And you only name 2, there's a third that we know of, and the other 8 nobody can seem to figure out. That's a problem. So, I don't think it's going to be a routine thing that they have to deal with, questionable reporting, but certainly you're dealing with a microscope. And when you have players speeding and obviously, the deaths in January and the lack of, stopping speeding over the end of that, that's a problem.
David, who do you eye in the SEC West, this debate over, we've been awaiting Alabama's downfall for like a decade now, it seems, at this point, to no avail. LSU, obviously, super hot season last year with Bryant Kelly. How do you view that battle out west with some interesting other contenders?
I don't even think it's a debate. I think LSU's clearly better. Don't shovel dirt on the Alabama dynasty just yet. I think they're a quarterback away from being really, really scary again. But right now, LSU is in better shape, and I think it's clearly the best team in the West right now.
David Ubben, again, athletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. Your thoughts about the Big 12 with Texas a favorite? And it's been a while, and it's been a while since they won the conference in 2009. What are your thoughts about the expectations, which are always pretty high, but seem like they're higher than they have been? And then maybe a dark horse, in your opinion, that because the Big 12's had Oklahoma State, Baylor 2 years ago, TCU, Kansas State last year. Is there a dark horse pick for you?
I mean, I like Texas Tech to win the whole thing, honestly. I get the Texas certainly the best team. I think they would not surprise me if they win it, but I think ultimately, to me, I like Texas Tech. I'm buying that hype.
What in particular about it do you think that they'll be that much improved on defense, and will they be able to win on the road this year?
Texas or Texas Tech?
Tech.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look around at Texas Tech, and I think you certainly are bringing back plenty of talent. I like the marriage between Zach Kitley and Tyler Shuck, and I think that jumps off the page at me. And certainly, that's a team that can really contend. And I think I like the toughness that Joey McGuire has installed in that program. I know that there's a lot made of losing Tyree Wilson, but Jalen Hutchings, Tony Bradford Jr. are back. I like that mix, and they did well in the portal. So, ultimately, I think Tech is well positioned to do some things that people have been waiting for a long time and love it.
David, if we rewound a couple years back to when the Texas-Oklahoma news broke and you were to kind of tell David Ubben back then of what the Big 12 would look like 2 years fast-forwarding to where they are right now, would you have been shocked? Would you have thought, okay, that sounds about right? I mean, just kind of how do you feel about the trajectory, especially given how grave things seemed just a couple summers ago?
Well, I mean, I think it's not even really an issue dealing with the Big 12. I mean, just the entire people have been calling it realignment. I always tell people consolidation is a better word for it. And the SEC and the Big 10 have put themselves back out in front and made themselves that, hey, if you're not in this league, you're not at the adult table of college football. And we've seen the Power Five begin to consolidate into a Big 2. And I don't think I think for a long time, back 10 years ago, there was all this talk about, well, we're going to have 4 super conferences. Now there's 2 super conferences, and that was hard to foresee in the time being. But, people are always sort of going to be chasing the money, and right now the Big 10 and the SEC are so far out in front that, that's just what's driving a lot of these decisions.
David, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Glad we were able to fit you in today. Appreciate it.
For sure. Thank you guys. Appreciate
David
it.
Ubben, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. Craig's Off the Radar is around the corner. Mickey was going to join us a little bit later today, but not available. But that's fine. There's much to get to, and we will. We'll take you up until 6. Paul Catalina and his top 5 in about an hour. And this is 365 Sports. TexasBeefHouse.com. I remember the first time that I had a chance to visit with Aaron Duvall. And, man, he is as Texas as they come. And what he and his family have done is they have begun, and they are in the middle of growing even longer, better, and their Wagyu cattle, the ranch, the beef that they have, which is incredible if you haven't had it. The other day, and I had a bunch of products sent to me, and I've distributed. I cooked the burgers like the first week we got it. And I've heard from a lot of you, the listeners and viewers, that have ordered Texas Beef House product. The steaks are amazing. The ribeyes are incredible. Obviously, they have brisket and more. They have sausage. But I just the other day was going to make something simple with hamburger meat, just ground burgers, ground hamburger meat. And it was Wagyu. I've never had Wagyu ground beef before. And there is a difference. And they have it. And they have much more. I've spoken with the marketing director many different times, Amanda, and she has talked many times about how it's easy to order. They usually ship on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And you can get the ribeyes, you can get New York strips if you want to get fillets, yes. But don't forget they also have the brisket, they have the sausage, they have the ground beef, and they have hamburger patties that even have cheese in it or garlic. What you want, they have. Go to TexasBeefHouse.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton. Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. It's a Thursday. Do this Thursdays at around 4:45 or so, give or take. And basically what this segment is just taking a look at a handful of stories. Depends on how much is really out there that otherwise we might not get to, or it's just a better spot to actually bog down and talk about some things in particular. And that's definitely the case with the story that I'll start off with here. And this will, depending again on the news, range from college football to multitude of other sports. And I didn't feel like just passing this across as a headline really would have done it justice, so I wanted to keep this one. And it is now time to talk about the sale of the Commanders, which is now official. The Washington Commanders no longer owned by Daniel Snyder after 24 years of just an ownership laced with scandals and controversies and a lot of losing and a lot of quarterbacks and a little bit of winning sprinkled in there. But Josh Harris unanimously approved as the new owner of the Washington Commanders, $6.05 billion, the price tag for the Washington Commanders franchise. Roger Goodell said in a statement that he will be Josh Harris, a great addition to the NFL. He has a remarkable record in business, sports, and in his communities as well. And alongside this, it wasn't just the announcement of Josh Harris, but they actually released the full findings from their investigation into Daniel Snyder. Those are public. Report released here within the last hour or so, and it's 23 pages long. And I haven't been able to read through this, but I have been keeping tabs on various media folks who have been rolling through there. Per the NFL, Daniel Snyder will pay $60 million to the league, and a resolution of the findings of all in the findings of the report and all outstanding matters. It did get into a lot of different things. For example, cooking the books, right? That was one of the things that was brought up. In the report, Mary Jo White found that emails corroborated what former executive Jason Friedman alleged, which is that the team used a second set of books where employees prepared financial records that compared NFL ticket sale revenues reportedly to the actual revenues that were from ticket sales. So that was one area that you thought was going to be problematic for Snyder, and it turns out that was legitimate. There's a lot more to unpack, and I think that everybody's still kind of rifling through it. But the basic gist of this all is the report's out. Everybody will pour through that and dig through that. But Daniel Snyder is no longer the owner of the Washington Commanders. $6 billion later, it is Josh Harris, and a new era begins for Commanders fans and the NFL.
He lost 1% of it.
What?
He lost 1% of it today, though, so rough day.
Yeah, he got $60 million fine. But Garrett, Craig, you're a lifelong Washington fan. Garrett, you are.
Yep.
I am. It doesn't it seem like this, like, when you have something where there's a lot of pressure on you, you're in bed, your face gets burning red. I'm so relieved. And I know this is a matter of time, but thank God.
No, I mean, this has been a long time coming. I mean, you're right. It's like just you can feel it coming off of your shoulders. But, Harris has shown success. My thing is, and I don't know how y'all feel, and this is minute, but I don't like the idea of the Commanders. Like, can we get something better than that? And then the stupid W on the helmet, like refresh that as well. But that's minor on a solid day.
Yeah, I think that's too much out of the box now at this point. Yeah, they've done the whole rebrand, and I thought that they could have done maybe something a little better too. I'm not a huge fan. It's growing on me though. I will say that it's growing on me. I still feel like the uniforms are a little generic, almost like you'd see in a Hollywood movie when they don't have the rights to the NFL teams, right? Like in the replacements or something.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what they feel like, but. I think it's better than Washington Football Club. I mean, it's grown on me a little bit. Maybe some will disagree with that, but yeah, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket compared to the ownership of Daniel Snyder. I wouldn't care what they're called, quite frankly, if you just get Daniel Snyder out of there. So, yeah, Harris also owns the New Jersey Devils and Philadelphia 76ers. He's got a number of other partners, and there is an NFL limit on that, which is 4. But the co-owners will include David Blitzer, who is also his partner with the Devils and 76ers, also billionaire Mitchell Rales, Magic Johnson, former Google CEO.
He's already even tweeted out he's thrilled with this.
Yes, I bet he has. And former Google CEO Eric Schmidt and security firm exec Mark Ein, those are the people also involved. But Josh Harris will be the forward-facing guy and the main owner that is talked about in all of this. So, yeah, after 20-plus years, Daniel Snyder no longer leading the Redskins. They had been put on the market in November, and there was a whole tussle about whether or not he was going to keep part of it or how all that was going to work out. But it's done. And, Paul, your thoughts on the Commander's sale?
Look, I do think it's really sad that it took him hiding money from the other owners for them to be concerned about him, because, I mean, this all started with a toxic workplace culture, particularly for the women who worked for his organization, and this Tiffany Johnston, who it's really went through it. And then, of course, the way he attacked his own employees and all these other things that happened. But it took them, getting money hidden from them for them to say, well, we're done with this guy. And it wasn't the workplace culture, the fact that his stadium was a dump, the fact that the team was never good. There was never any good news about them. Like, it was just all bad, bad, bad. It's great for the NFL that he's gone. I hope Josh Harris, even as a Cowboys fan, it'd be nice to see, the division be
David
what it
Hellman
was in the 90s.
just tweeted out, thank goodness, can we renew what used to be?
Yeah, it was great. Look, it's way better when everybody's good, and the Cowboys have owned that. The rivalry's essentially over because the Cowboys have owned it since Daniel Snyder bought the team. So all those things that if you grew up when I did, when you did, Smokey or Craig and I are about the same age, if you grew up when we all did, we got a room full of guys here who have no idea how great Cowboys versus Redskins used to be.
Hey, Washington won the last game.
Yeah. But I mean, you could say that, and then you go back, and the Cowboys win 8 of 10.
Yeah, they do. Over and over again.
Yeah, over and over again. So the rivalry was just dead, and Dan Snyder ran it into the ground. He ran everything into the ground. So it's a great day for the NFL. But it's just still, I get the icky feel when you just say the words Daniel Snyder.
You're a Cowboys fan. That's enough. That's too much on our team.
Yeah.
The value when he bought it was $0.6 billion. The value when he sold it was $6.5 billion. When he took the team over, they were third in attendance. Now they are 30th out of 32.
With a terrible stadium.
Yes. When he took over, they were a team that was 4 games above 500 the year before. And, of course, now his record during that time is 80 to 100 games under 500. Everything that was really pretty good and very valuable, and still valuable money-wise, and incredibly, the integrity of the franchise went straight in the toilet.
80 to 100, I don't believe that. I know they had losing seasons, but 80 to 100 under 500 since he took over.
I'm going to give you his number.
That's hard to imagine, but I know they lost, but that's, I guess 25 years it's possible if you're going 4-12 and 3-13 a lot.
I could be wrong. Let me give you.
No, I mean that's a lot. That's to be hovering barely above or right at, and then
164 and 220. So I'm wrong. He was about 60 games under 500.
So it's not that far off. That's a lot.
I've suffered all of them.
That's 25 years of basically being under 500 most of the time. So yeah, he was terrible. They were terrible for the most part under him. What fleeting moments they had, they ruined quickly, like RG3, and just couldn't happen to a nicer guy to get kicked out of that spot. But yes, the billionaire still wins because he's more of a billionaire than ever before. And so you know what? That sucks, but we can't have our cake and eat it too, right? So I'd rather he be out of that position and a little richer than be still ruining a lot of people's lives and just running that franchise into the ground. So good riddance. Josh Harris says it's not lost on him that his I guess the way he will be remembered will be determined by what happens in Washington, not the 76ers or the Devils or whatever. It's going to come down to Washington. He said a new era of Washington football is here. It's time to get to work. And there's a bunch to unpack from the report that people are pouring through right now, including how uncooperative Daniel Snyder was with the entire investigation, and a lot of other things that I'm sure will be touched on at some point.
There's one thing to note, and I just brought this up. Paul, you're a Cowboys fan, right? Mm-hmm. Cowboys and Washington have combined 8 Super Bowl champions. Cowboys 5, Washington 3. And neither one of them have been back to a championship game since 1996.
Yeah.
So it's not just Washington that's dropped, even though Dallas wins a lot of conference or division titles. But man, what used to be.
Since Bob Dole ran for president against Bill Clinton, that's how long it's been since those teams have been there.
Back,
yeah, 1996. Dan Snyder, the thing too is, you mentioned, Craig, he hurts a lot of people like that worked for him, that played for him, the fans that loved that team, the players that used to play for that team. Like, there's no positive interactions. And then when there's like a little bit of good news, like RG3, he's like, okay, hey kids, I got you a puppy. And the minute like the puppy pees on the rug, he's like, no puppies.
Yeah, or
like,
it gets
gone.
run over in the road.
Like, well, you didn't just take it to, you didn't want to train it? No. I don't like that. It's gone. It was all so bad.
All right, so that is now all but official. I think there's like a close that has to, be finalized, like the actual closing of the sale. But I mean, they're doing the press conference, all that. It's over. So Josh Harris, the new Commanders owner, and a new era there in Washington. Meanwhile, a minor NFL note, and this one just because we know the guy, but Denzel Mims found out yesterday that he's going to be headed to the Detroit Lions after he was cut by the New York Jets. And I saw our buddy Grayson Grunhafer, who was like, oh, that's what Denzel needs. He needed a fresh start. I agree that he needs a fresh start. I also don't, however, agree with the fact that it's always the Jets' fault and not the players' fault, because based on what I've been able to gather and just the way things have kind of gone, you need to be healthy. You need to know what you're doing. You need to take advantage of your opportunities. And so it's great that Denzel Mims has a fresh start, but it's going to be on him, not the Lions. It's not going to be the Jets' fault. It's on Denzel Mims to make sure that his NFL career lasts beyond this upcoming season. If even that, he's still got to go training camp and do all those things, but he is getting a chance. Been in the league for a little while now, and this kind of seems like it's a fork in the road for him as far as his career goes.
If he doesn't work out in Detroit, it wasn't the Jets' fault.
No.
Right.
This is brings us back to an earlier $5 super chat from Chris. Guys, former Baylor wide receiver Denzel Mims was traded from the Jets to the Lions. What memories do you have, and will he do well with the Lions? I think, I don't know if he'll do well or not, because he has to be healthy. If he's healthy, which he has not been with the Jets for the most part, and the causes for those injuries are varying. I think that the Lions are a better fit for him right now than the Jets were the minute that Robert Saleh came in there. Adam Gase was the coach who drafted him. Robert Saleh comes in, and then everything changed. So it was kind of, even though initially probably didn't seem that way, he did not jive with Mike LaFleur at all, the offensive coordinator who's there, or who was there before Aaron Rodgers came back, which is now Nathaniel Hackett. So they've been through a lot of changes with the Jets. I think he's going to have a good opportunity to do well in Detroit. Dan Campbell's got things rolling there. Jared Goff has resuscitated his career. They have a lot of weapons around, so he's not going to have to be the focus, but he's got to be healthy before anything else.
He's got to just produce.
Health's one thing, but it is not like why he's not. I mean, it's part of the reason, but it's, again, as much as it is just his brain, knowing what to do, knowing where to be, those types of things, and yes, being healthy. So it's an availability thing. I think it's an everything thing with him and trying to make it now at this point.
His the memory is the catch against Oklahoma State in the back corner of the end zone that won the game, and then against TCU in that thrilling Charlie Brewer 2019 game that went four overtimes. He caught the last two touchdowns from Charlie, that they ended up winning the game 29-23. I also remember the story Matt Rule told about him, that Matt was kind of frustrated with him. So he had an NFL scout sit in a room with Denzel and give him that scared straight talk that you hear about prisoners getting from former prisoners. And he grew up, and he was really good. But it hasn't worked out yet in the National Football League.
Yeah, I mean, a guy with first-round talents but hasn't just always been able to put it all together for one reason or another. So best of luck to Denzel. Good dude. But he is now a Detroit Lion, and rather than playing with Aaron Rodgers, he'll be playing with Jared Goff. I think that's, certainly an opportunity that would have been pretty cool, but the Jets are, entering their own new era, and Mims had already requested a trade last year and then ended up playing the season with him anyways. And it just, this was a marriage that needed to end. And so it has, and hope he does well in Detroit.
All right, guys, tell me yes or no, up or down on these are wide receivers since the Art Briles era that were drafted. David Geddes.
Yes or no what?
Good or not?
No.
No.
All right. Kendall Wright.
For a little bit.
Josh Gordon.
For a little bit.
Terrence Williams.
Yes, he was good.
Tevin Reese.
No.
Corey Coleman.
No.
Jalen Hurd.
Hardly, never played.
Denzel Mims.
No.
And right now, currently, I mean, these are drafted receivers. Tyquan Thornton, who had a very nice rookie year with New England.
Yeah, he was okay. He played a good bit. I mean, definitely not a guy who's locked himself into, still be in the league in 5 years. I mean, he's going to have to keep getting better and better. But he also dealt with some injuries, and yet there was some promise there, but not a lot with those other guys that you mentioned. So, yeah, anyways, to answer the super chat, we do appreciate that. Getting a very talented guy, but he's got to put it all mentally, physically, emotionally together, and really, make the most of this opportunity. So elsewhere, it's crazy how many times we're getting this story nowadays, but another speeding ticket story. This time, Vikings wide receiver and rookie Jordan Addison. So not Georgia football here, where that's kind of where we seem like we were hearing that a lot, but just all around college football, I guess it's been kind of one of those headlines that you see every few weeks or so. But this out of the NFL, I guess the NFL too, obviously, Henry Ruggs, and it's been, just athletes in general, I suppose. But regardless, Jordan Addison cited on Thursday morning speed and reckless driving after an officer was able to clock him driving 140 miles an hour on a freeway outside of St. Paul. The number 23 overall draft pick did not get arrested, but there is an investigation ongoing, and the Vikings released their generic statement saying that they are aware of the incident and they are gathering additional information. It's like that must just be like a fill in the blank. Just fill in the name and then release this PR statement, because that's basically what they always say. Patrol officer was going east on I-94 just after 3 a.m. when they observed a driver in a Lamborghini, I'm not fancy enough to know how this is pronounced, Urus, I don't know, URUS, traveling 140 in a 55-mile-per-hour zone. The trooper made the stop, identified Addison. Rookies will report on Sunday to training camp for the Minnesota Vikings, and then they'll have their various workouts that get kicked off after that. He had not been a part of most of what they did this offseason because he had been injured, but he will eventually have to face the media, and I'm sure he'll say all the right things. But, man, a whole lot of these speeding incidents, and clearly nobody's learned from Henry Ruggs. Like, clearly everybody forgot about that from like a year ago, and that whole incident in Las Vegas that was tragic. But yeah, 140 in a 55.
What's the fastest you've ever gone, Paul?
Not that fast.
Not that fast for me either.
Garrett?
Probably about 115.
What?
Well, you do stupid stuff in a small
I've gone
town,
over
man. 100.
I'm not going to lie about that. I've never gotten any close to 140. Absolutely not.
I think maybe on some of these, now that it's 75 or 85, you can, you as long as your car doesn't start rattling,
right?
That the speed limits have changed. But good Lord.
Yeah, now double that. That's what he was going. There's not really any reason for that whatsoever.
I just say, if Smokey is repulsed at how fast you're going,
I don't think he is, though. I think he's like just trying to figure out how it's not that big of a deal.
No. That is scary.
That's pretty fast.
Like a burp or anything, a pebble could, like, you're dead.
That's almost 100 over the speed limit.
Yeah.
So that's not good. So Jordan Addison, luckily that it wasn't worse than it was, but still, just I don't know what's going on with dudes and cars and going crazy fast. I mean, I guess that's always been a thing, James Dean and all that. But my gosh, after Henry Ruggs, I would just be a little bit more concerned about all of that. So I think that's about it. Oh, yeah, the final thing here, and we don't have to dive deep into it, but the Big 12 basketball schedule for next year was released. And there will be a setup where Big 12 teams play 5 conference opponents twice. You'll have a home and away with 5 teams. Everybody's is different, obviously. And there will be 18 conference games in total. So you get home and away with 5 teams. That'll take 10, and then 8 games that are one-offs with the other teams on the schedule. And like I said, it varies, so no point in getting too deep into who's who and what's what there. But it was fun to see that released, fun to see UCF figuring out like who's our home and away and where are we going to be going, and seeing – I don't know if it was UCF or if it was I was one of the new schools who were like, oh, we're going to the Fog, and being excited about that being a conference game. So cool to see another release and new details on what the new Big 12 is going to look like, at least for this odd year where there's as many teams as there are. But there are a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. In fact, Baylor's home and away will be against Texas. You would expect that. TCU, yes. Texas Tech, yes. Kansas. They play both at home and on Brigham Young. The away games only are UCF, K-State, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. Home against Cincy, Houston, Iowa State, and Oklahoma. I did notice that Kansas will have Houston and Baylor and K-State, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State home and away. They will play home only against Texas. And so that game for Texas will be a road game. It's just cool to see the names in here now, and especially when you look at Houston, you go, with all due respect to the others, you go, wow, that's kind of fun to have. There's a super chat. Craig, thank you with Off the Radar, brought to you by Alliance Bank, from Kim Coulter. And I was worried people said you missed Kim's rant. I thought they said rant. It was a super chat. But with him, we love you, Kim. We never know. Fellas, come on. Georgie boy, talking about Kliavkoff, makes $5 million a year. This is about him protecting his livelihood. Nothing more. Yormark humiliated him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility just like anything else until there's no more possibilities because there's an actual official decision that's made. I've seen that out there that this is, George Kliavkoff trying to protect himself. I feel like there's enough people in the room that would be smart enough to figure out that that's what he's doing. That's the only part of this. And then again, maybe not. Maybe we give way too much credit to these people that are in charge of athletic departments at universities because sometimes they do some really dumb things and you wonder, like, how are you in higher education? Maybe we overrate that a little bit. But, that'd be quite the scheme. And I don't know that I'm on board with that necessarily, but, the longer it drags out, the more room it gives you to feel like that maybe is what's going on. But eventually push is going to come to shove. And I know, said that 6 months ago, said that 6 months before that, but, truly there is going to come an end game to this, and he's going to have to put those cards on the table. So he's either going to get himself some more time and end up with egg on his face, or he's going to get some more time and he's going to look like a guy who held it all together. And, maybe until there's no official outcome, maybe he's a guy that actually impresses when all is said and done. That seems the most unlikely outcome, but I do understand why people feel that, he's putting this off to avoid, the microscope of attention, but they're going to find out eventually. That's the thing, is there's no avoiding it for eternity.
There is Andrew Marchand interviewed of someone who's a CEO, and there is at least Matt Zemek from Yahoo Sports has a story out about the possibility that at the same table, and Jim Williams sent me this article, just a thought, I put it up in the forum section, some people have already shot it down, about Comcast and ESPN looking at being partners in some particular way, Paul, because of Hulu, and that maybe that opens up. Some have already shot it down because it also included ESPN, with Andrew Marchand has repeatedly said is out. So I put that up in the forums. They can chew on that and digest that.
Yeah, and then Comcast is who they owe money to.
And they owe,
right?
So maybe you got that money disappears.
So if you're doing one of those, like, I don't think that we have been, but there's certainly some people that are probably keeping a scorecard of like what the deal comes in the end and whether or not it's more or less than the Big 12s. If it was a Comcast thing, then yeah, they owe some money there somewhere. So would that be enough of a subtraction to where they come in under the Big 12's number, or how does that all play together, or is that even legitimate? I mean, that's the other part of it. We don't know. We've heard literally everybody
scenario.
But Nickelodeon and like MTV and Home Shopping Network. I've even seen somebody jokingly mention HSN, so that's actually been mentioned. But yeah, I mean, every scenario has been thrown out there, it seems like, at this point.
All right, here's a couple of other stories, because Sam Bradshaw from Sikkim365.com and the graphic we had earlier is going to join us to discuss a little bit more of why he went about doing that. Mattress Mac has inked a $1 million NIL deal with the University of Houston basketball team. That's just today. That was from Joseph Duarte. Paul, let me get your feedback on this. 3 U.S. senators released bipartisan draft of federal NIL legislation, Democrats and Republicans agreeing on something.
Which is much more likely to happen in the Senate than it will in the House right now for a varying bit of reasons, but I won't go into a civics lesson on that. But it's got some good things to it that I think people would like. The thing that I think would get it stuck and not passed is that it essentially creates a federal agency to monitor these things, which would be like the government arm of the NCAA. It would have subpoena power, and look, that government's not really good at doing these kind of things anyway. So are we really going to put it in their hands and then hope for the best and hope the part with the NCAA wasn't expediency for punishment and things like that? Well, now you're going to go to the U.S. government and expect it to go faster? You try to get your driver's license renewed? I mean, that's kind of be realistic here. What they really wanted was just laws that govern these things that they could say this is the law. But now they're throwing in this agency, which I think is going to complicate deals as far as getting this passed. And again, this is one of the many drafts of the many bills that have been out there. But it is at least encouraging to see that there is some bipartisan support for this. For now. I think these things can get done in the Senate because you're really talking about flipping a couple of votes because it is divided right down the middle, as where the House just votes completely along party lines now, no matter what the thing is, however it goes. So,
Garrett, do you have the quote from Jim Phillips or the statement from Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner whose name's been tied to Northwestern? Here's his statement. This has been a difficult time for Northwestern, the community, a place that my entire family called home. Over my 30-year career in intercollegiate athletics, my highest priority has always been the health and safety of all student athletes. Hazing is completely unacceptable anywhere, and my heart goes out to anyone who carries the burden of having been mistreated. Any allegation that I ever condoned or tolerated inappropriate conduct against student athletes is absolutely false. I will vigorously defend myself against any suggestion to the contrary.
No, but where he falls in here is, if he and Pat Fitzgerald are telling the absolute truth that they didn't know about it, then that's where it comes along as okay, well then how? How did you not? I think that's what the issue is right here. So, okay, we'll take you at face value that you didn't know anything about it. So then my question for you is, how? Why didn't you? How did this, which a student newspaper blew the roof off, that you didn't know?
Yeah, that didn't help Pat Fitzgerald with that claim, right? Or at least that defense. When we come back, we're going to hear from Sam Bradshaw. He's been beating down my phone. He's got the graphic we showed earlier in the show. We'll hear from him. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza, limited time, 30% off menu pizza prices right now. If you go online and you use the code 30OFFMP for 30 off Marco's Pizza. Unlimited medium one-topping pizzas, $6.99 each. A Magnifico lineup starting at $9.99, including the pepperoni Magnifico, the sausage Magnifico, and the pepperoni and sausage Magnifico. Boneless wings, savory sauces, $7.99 for 10 pieces, and also delicious pizza bowls if you're interested at $7.99 a piece. You can yourself build your own pizza. Well, you always should be able to do that. That's an American way. Pizza, whatever cheese you want, thin crust, regular crust, whatever cheese, and of course the ingredients, whether it's vegetables or whatever meat. Bob Mock owns 5 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Woodway, and Robinson. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. How crazy is this? 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport totals values of $4,000 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. How crazy is that? Or the 2023 Jeep Compass, get 10% below MSRP. That's right, these deals are hot just like our summer days in Texas. Remember, first responders get another $500 in savings. So come find the Jeep that's right for you and save big at Alan Samuels in Waco. Make this the summer sales event at Alan Samuels during the hot days of summer, and this month in July, get legendary 2023 Dodge Chargers or Challengers, SXT, GT, or RT models, your choice with total values up to $2,000. Alan Samuels in Waco is the place for you to shop for your next Dodge. Shop the greatest selection in Central Texas and find the hot rod for you. Come by and visit the showroom at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. See the demons and scat packs they have loaded the sales floor with.
They won't last long, as you truly have the last call models of legendary muscle cars only at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, Loop 340 east of 84.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, we're back 365 Sports. Thanks again today to Levi Caraway, Jack McKenzie, Graham Bronstein, and Garrett Ross. Emery Winter will put everything together for 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 tonight on the CW. We're joined by Sam Bradshaw, the Rain Man of Sikkim365.com, who we showed the graphic that, Sam, you had sent us in a direct message, and you're able to join us just now. And leave that up on the screen, Garrett, if you can. So, Sam, we have the graphic from 2010 until now. The Big 12 on the left side, which I think you said that's Baylor's earnings, but everybody in the Big 12 on the left. Colorado and what they've earned in the Pac-12 on the right. And then, of course, the delta of how much difference there is, including $15 million just 3 years ago. What made you get into this?
Thanks for having me on. And 2 things kind of brought this on. One, I saw somebody do just a smaller snippet of the years there, just as a bit of a breakdown. And then from there, got to the question of what is the grand sum total since they decided to leave, including the exit fee. And then beyond that, there's just this constant question of why is it taking so long? for them to make a decision to either stay or go. Are they going to sign a grant of rights? Are they going to decide to leave? Why is it taking long? Well, a large portion of why it's probably taking so long is they've lost close to $70 million because they were very hasty in terms of leaving. And at the time, I understand it looked like 6 teams were leaving the Big 12 with 5 coming with them. But, in hindsight, it's been a bit of a snafu for them, where conservatively it's $67 million plus whatever they sell their Tier 3 television rights for. And it's definitely been a money loser for them. And I can completely understand them wanting to have hard numbers from the Pac-12 before they make a move.
Sam, with this, again, we haven't heard anything that would be definitive on anything either way, but this does lead to the theory that Colorado would be one of the first ones to go because they can compare their numbers previous and current and all that better than maybe anybody else in the league because they were in the Big 12 and this has not worked out for them in any metric, and financials the most important one to college athletics these days.
Well, I don't know if it necessarily hints at anything necessarily impending for them versus somebody else, but I do think it stands to reason that they can look at schools that they were peers with a decade ago and see that Texas Tech, they're getting 45% of the cumulative viewership over that time in my data for nationally rated networks because so many games are shoved onto Pac-12 network. The exposure's down. They've lost money over this time period going to the Pac-12. Even if you say that, well, the Big 12 is splitting it 2 more ways, well, they're probably going to have a higher payout with Colorado in the fold than they would otherwise. And even then, $67 million is quite a deficit to chip away at with rationalizations like that. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how this plays out because if I'm Colorado, I want hard numbers because, these are institutions. They've got people with a lot of different opinions, and there's probably a contingent at that university since they get so many of their students from the West Coast because they get a lot of things and a lot of those ties from the West Coast. There's probably a contingent that's reluctant to leave. And politically, it would probably play better if they could point to a number and say, see, this says we're going to make tens of millions more coming over this way versus staying. And that would give people who want to leave a lot more cover. If I'm George Kliavkoff and I, for some reason, don't have a good deal already, and we'll find out whether he does or not. But if I don't, I am kicking that can down the road as long as I can to make it as uncomfortable as possible on anybody who would push to leave.
Some of the responses, I'm going to read them, and you can respond, Sam, to your post on Twitter. This is really interesting. Is it on the main CU Form 990? Where do I find it? I have never interacted with that form before. Would love to take a look at the numbers myself.
Right. If you search for 990 forms for any of the major conferences, they're all registered as nonprofits, and that's the nonprofit tax form. Depending on which conference you're looking at, you can sometimes get it itemized out by this much is TV radio revenue, this much is TV contracts, this much is bowls. Some of them are itemized that way. Some of them are kind of lumped together in terms of revenue sources. But you also get an itemized breakdown for the vast majority of these of this school got X, this school got Y, this school got Z is the league distribution for that year, which is not just television revenue. That's bowls. That's March Madness. That's everything after expenses that they distributed out to the school.
Sarge wants to know, go back further than 2010. If I remember correctly, Colorado was losing major money prior to the move. That was part of the reason for the move.
Right. 2 issues with going back further than 2010. The first issue is we're looking at Colorado's decision in 2010. So the relevance to that decision is pretty limited going back further than that. And then also with the television deals that they had prior to the contracts that kind of were started around the time that Colorado joined the Pac-12, that prior round of contracts were very, very similar per school. You're talking within $600K of just TV revenue. And considering that the Big 12 typically runs their overhead leaner than the Pac-12 has over the last decade or so, the difference is not going to be much to spit at. So, I mean, I could put the numbers up, but it's not really going to make a whole hill of beans difference.
Couple more things. Bender, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let's say we are placing too much emphasis on sports. How much more did Colorado gain, if any? Academic funding, grants, did the money they lose from college sports outweigh what they gained from academics?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. One of the responses or questions was, are we placing too much emphasis on sports? How much money did Colorado gain, if any, in academic funding and grants?
Well, in order to get that, you have to look at things in context. First off, did it go up? Did the overall nation as a whole get more grant money? And are those rises proportional to that? How much of that is attributable to the Pac-12? They were already, I saw one chart that showed their research increases were starting long before they even had any serious conversations about joining the Pac-12. So how much is directly attributed to that? It becomes very speculative and it becomes very difficult to parse out. That's one reason I haven't really touched that aspect of it, because it's very hard to quantify.
And then someone brought up, by the way, there's the $5 million that each of the schools in the Pac-12, including Colorado, owe Comcast, or at least it appears that way.
Right. And I'm not sure if that entirely was taken care of with the 22 to 23 distribution, but I know at least part of it was responsible for the reduction from $37 million to $36 million a school in the 2022 to 2023 distribution as opposed to the year before. Whether that covers all of it, I can't remember off the top of my head.
All right, so last question for you, Sam. You come up with these graphics and the images and the data and analytics. What has been, I've given you just some of the questions, and it's on your timeline, not mine, but what has been some of the reaction to this?
The biggest reaction is people are missing the point of why I put it out there. I put it out there as a indication of why is it taking so long? Well, they lost millions of dollars by moving fast last time. They're going to make sure they have as much of a concept of the numbers as they can before moving again, because they don't want to make another losing bet and end up well over $100 million short of what they could have been had they made their correct moves twice in a row. You don't want to be in a losing position on whatever move you make here. That's been the biggest takeaway, because everyone's like, oh, well, this is predicting something for the Big 12 versus Pac-12 going forward. No, I'm just pointing to the need for actual relevant numbers. And that's why this is going to drag out, because if they at all can have it, just simply to appease different constituents within their own group, even if they're leaning towards leaving, they're going to wait as long as they feasibly can in order to just not be leaping before they look. Right now it looks like the Big 12 is probably going to have a better deal than the Pac-12 if you believe most of the reporting out there. But then again, the reporting can quickly turn on a dime. Colorado, literally back in 2010, they announced on June 10th that they're leaving for the Pac-12. And then on June 14th, Chip Brown comes out and says the BB plan to save the Big 12 shows that they can make the requisite revenue, and they got assurances from TV partners that future contracts would be competitive with some of the top leagues. And all of a sudden, the desire for the remainder of the schools to immediately move kind of went up in smoke overnight. And they don't want to be on the losing end of that kind of turn again.
I just sent you a story, by the way, that we had mentioned earlier, the story on Yahoo Sports about ESPN and Comcast are at the table on negotiations perhaps involving Hulu as an option of money that might be coming available, different options. It's an article by Matt Zemek, and I just sent that to you, direct message for you to look through and see if any of that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look.
When it comes to the Pac-12, by the way, yeah.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, the reluctance I'd have for that being a major deal for the Pac-12 over the short term is just the amount of time that putting an agreement together like that at the very top would take would potentially be longer than the timetable they need to get a deal done. But then again, this is the first I'm hearing of it, and I could potentially be very wrong on that. If I am, I'll own it.
No, I mean, we're looking at all the scenarios. That's what we've done. Just wanted you to know about it so you can digest it and spit it out one way or the other. Sam, thanks for your time and all your work. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. You guys have a great day.
Bradshaw on 365 Sports. That's a lot of money. And there was the response from somebody about the academia and all of that and the grant money and all that, which is, of course, going to be it's a legitimate question, but it's still separate what they do academically and what they do athletically, and Sam broke it down. I did not realize it was that much money that perhaps they had lost, because when Nebraska left the same year, Nebraska's been getting Big Ten money, although they didn't get, I don't think, a full share right off the top. They got a pretty good chunk, where if you look at the numbers with Colorado that first year, they took just they just didn't get a lot out of it. And plus the fact they paid money to the Big 12. Think about what they paid to the Big 12, $6 or $7 million for an exit fee, and what Texas and Oklahoma had to pay. And I don't remember what A&M and or Missouri had to pay.
No, I don't remember either.
And it might have been because of bylaws and timelines and much more. I'm not sure. One other quick college football note. Paul's Top 5 is around the corner. The Colonial Athletic Association is now the Coastal Athletic Association, with a footprint mainly on the East Coast. They want to modernize their name. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center just off of Valley Mills and Richland Drive, loaded up with cigars in the 48-foot walk-in humidor, and they have all the great brands. Macanudo, Ashton, of course, I love Rocky Patel and what cigars they have available. If you want H. Upman, they can do that. If you want Cohiba, they have that. Padron, yes. CAO, yes. And Arturo Fuente. And there are many other names or brands of cigars that they have, whether it's a light smoking kind of a cigar that's smooth or one that's a little more harsh, Maduro. What you want, they have it. And also on top of that, if you smoke cigars, if you want a humidor to put them in, they have those different styles, different amount of cigars you could put it in, and they'll even get it ready for you for when you buy it and put your cigars in it. They have cutters to cut the cigars, punches to punch the cigars, and they also have a lot of different torch lighters. If you want CBD product called Vita Dreams, they have that. If you struggle at night falling asleep, CBD and Vita Dreams can help you out. Carol, Ashley, and also Cheyenne. It's Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
A Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
All right, this graphic was sent to me by email. I need to go find the email because I thought I had printed it with the title of who sent it to me. But these are Big 12 coaches against the spread. Now, let's take our time here. Sonny Dykes, of course, and Joey McGuire, even Brent Venables, and UT's Steve Sarkisian. They haven't been around that long, so some of these numbers are a little bit different. Sonny Dykes, against the spread, covers it just over 71% of the time. Now, last year was like all of that because of his first year at TCU. Chris Kleiman, a little bit more of a I guess you could say, years involved, 64.6%. Dave Aranda, 12-2 sure helps that number. You take 12-2 out, and it's 8-12. It's just under 63% covering against the spread. Joey McGuire, 8-5 last year. There you go. Gundy, look at how many damn games he's coached. 58% basically is what he's done against the spread. Matt Campbell, just above 500, along with Steve Sarkisian and Kalani Sitake right at 50%. Neil Brown, Dana Holgerson, Lance Leipold, Gus Malzahn, and Brent Venables are the 5 below 50%.
Yeah, and some of those sample sizes are real small, obviously, because of the first year in the league. But I would, Mike Gundy does not surprise me that he is just above 50% in covering the spread, because that's kind of how most Oklahoma State games feel. So betting the spread against Oklahoma State's got to be, betting anything. I don't know. The three of us are not gambling guys.
Not at all.
But that number doesn't surprise me. Aranda at 62% surprised me a little bit. But again, I'm kind of like putting in last year more than anything. But yeah, Aranda against the spread surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a handful of guys that are really above, the winning percentage there. I mean, slightly over 50%, like 52% means you're winning more than you're losing. But as you can see, I mean, there's Campbell and Sarkisian are hovering right on that line. So really, Campbell, by the end of the year could be back under that. Same with Sark. Don't know there. But, yeah, I mean, Sitake on down, those guys are on the losing side of things. They're not a good bet against the spread more often than not, whereas above that, those guys are. And, I don't have any scientific breakdown on why that is more than the others. But it's interesting to see it, and interesting that McGuire's record is exactly what his record, just overall record, was last year. I wonder how many times you beat the spread, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly your record is what I'm trying to say
Right.
there.
No,
but
absolutely.
interesting it worked out that way for Joey Maguire. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to win football games. And you see right there, a lot of guys at around 500 or just under 500. And, like you said, small sample sizes. I think Leipold's will probably grow. Venables will probably grow because those are just such, I guess Venables in particular, such a tiny sample size. Maguire will be interesting to see. I mean, I think just in general, everything about Tech is pretty fun to think about and wonder about, and a lot of people wanting to see what that exactly is going to look like because, man, there's been a hype train for the last several months for that program, and it's about to, finally get on the tracks, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. But, yeah, interesting breakdown. And some guys that have a lot of work to do as far as pleasing the folks out in Vegas, that's for sure.
All right, the chat room today, I've admitted, I've gone in there and I've said I've just been caught up with a lot going on. And I just haven't been paying attention. Retired stockbroker or someone said, you just stay out of this, we got it. I don't know if I can trust everybody in the chat room, but it is fun. Levi monitors it, Emery, etc. And then sometimes I try to go in there also. Sharice, I think Texas wins the Big 12. If not, it will be TCU or Kansas State, which is, of course, they played for it last year.
I think that's a safe bet. Texas would be or is my pick as well, and TCU, K-State are right there. I mean, I think that if that's where you've got your money or where your mind is, then that's certainly a good spot to be in. If it's somebody outside of those teams like Texas Tech, I don't think that would be a real surprise, but I think anybody else would be a shocker. I think even Oklahoma winning it would be shocking. I do. I mean, to go from where they were last year to bounce back to be where they were right before Venables arrived, I think would be a little shocking just because last year it seemed like it was more than just a transition period. It seemed like, okay, you're taking an actual step back. This isn't just like bad luck, but if Venables gets them to where they're winning 10, 11 games, then that entire conversation that's been going on since the end of last year about them going into the SEC completely flips on its head, or it flips somewhat to where maybe you're not nearly as worried about them because he was able to get it all solved by year number 2. But yeah, those are the three that I think most everybody, with the exception of a Tech mention here or there, those are 3 safe bets for sure.
Retired stockbroker, $1 super chat. Everything counts. We appreciate that. Hey, I see Dennis Haiti back in the chat room for a while. He's responding to Roger Dodger, and I'm trying to look for Roger's chat. If you think he's blameworthy for whatever reason, then maybe he should be punished. We know there are violations going on at most other programs that are also kept hidden. And I'm going to go back and look for what Roger Dodger, I'm sure it has to do with Northwestern. Heads up. Heads have to be chopped, Dennis Haiti, that if the AD then has leadership, they take the blame. Sometimes the president's head rolls as well if it's bad enough when he's talking about Northwestern.
Well, for the Northwestern president, Schill, lucky that hasn't been there that long. I mean, literally there's a couple months on the job. So really this is not under that jurisdiction or that purview for him yet. I mean, it is now, but it wasn't during most of it, the other person.
And this is in reference to the quote or the statement we read and showed you from ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to Jim Phillips down the line in this. Again, it's just he's going to have to answer that question I asked before. Why didn't you know? How can you be in charge of a department that has this going on, and you've got people, especially if it comes out that players have reported down the line, then how do you not know? And who do they report to? Because then you have to figure out what your reporting system is and everything else that's going on there at Northwestern.
One of the guys in the premium section, I sent him that story about the Jim Williams had sent me about the possibility of the Pac-12 and what could be moving when it comes to Comcast, ESPN, etc. 2 things he said. That is a large number of independent moving pieces that must each align with the whole to make that scenario work. And 2, it would be difficult for the various broadcast/streaming portions of that scenario to be evaluated without the numbers people leaking something. They talk with other numbers people constantly. They leak like a 40-year-old roof. There you go, on a response to the story involving what I mentioned about Matt Zemek, his reporting, and Awful Announcing was a part of that story too. When we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Unite Private Networks. You need to find out more about them at uniteprivatenetworks.com. They are our heroes right now, and I can give you a ton of details about what they can do, but let me just tell you about what has happened here. And the next time I talk about them, I'll give you all kind of crazy numbers and stuff like that. We were with a company that claimed to have the best fiber optic service and blah, 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 blah. If you watch this channel, you know how many times that we had to drop and just kind of end the show and record things and put them up later and deal with it, or we'd be off for a few minutes and then come back on for about 10 minutes and then, hop back off. And we call this company and call this company and call this company. I sat here on hold on the phone one day for an hour and just sent everybody home. I said, everybody just go because they're not answering yet and we still don't have internet. That is not what you get at Unite Private Networks. If you're a business and you need high-speed fiber optic internet, you need to go to uniteprivatenetworks.com. They are in a ton of markets around the country. They're right here in Waco. They're in all over the place. You need to go and see what they can bring you because it has solved so many problems that we've had, not just on the live show, but other things. Emery Winter's life is much easier. He used to have to stay here sometimes to do something that all he needed to do was download some stuff for 30, 40 minutes to download these videos. Now he's out the door in about 5 minutes afterwards. He's done. He's on. He's living his wild, wild life. That is what Unite Private Networks can bring you is customer service. Guess what? If you have an interruption, they're on the phone with you right away, and the problem is solved pretty darn fast, usually within 20 minutes or so. And if it's a bigger problem than that, believe me, they're going to come out and fix it. They are fantastic. They've been great every step of the way. These almost 3 weeks that we've had them right now, we thank the heavens every day for Unite Private Networks coming along, and you need to look into it for your business as well. Check out uniteprivatenetworks.com.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, that's TexasBeefHouse.com. Everyone, when they think of Wagyu, the first thing they think about is beef, and that's obviously what you guys specialize in, and you raise it right there from your pasture to the customer. The fillets, you have ribeyes, you have New York strips. I've tried them all. These are always available, correct, by ordering online?
Yes, everything's available, TexasBeefHouse.com. You can order one package of steaks up to as many packages as you want. All the steaks come 2 steaks per package. We've got New York strip fillets. The fillets are so tender you can almost cut them with a fork. Ribeyes. We've got top sirloin and we've got regular sirloin and even flat iron, flank steak, and flap steak. They're all great.
Oh, that sounds great. Fajita meat?
Yes, we've got skirt steak and flank steak that we use for fajita meat.
Samantha Duvall's the marketing director with Aaron Duvall, of course, in the Duvall family. What they've done, family owned, operated, and they run. TexasBeefHouse.com. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu, not just steaks, but also so much more. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 things BYU must do to win the Big 12. And I'll just warn you guys, we're at the limits of my imagination here on BYU winning it. As we get further down the line,
you say this every day,
but this one was hard, to do, because I just don't see it. But I'll keep going until we're through.
Did you think Baylor was going to go 12-2 2 years ago?
No, I did not.
Okay,
no, I absolutely did not. So sure. Number 5, maintain their physical style of play. Kalani Sitake has them. When you play BYU, you remember you played BYU for a few days, because they absolutely will maul you physically. They need to continue that as they get into the Big 12. This team especially, because they do not have as many playmakers as they did a couple years ago, but they have some. So they need to absolutely dominate you in the trenches, get you down, make sure you're worn down by games, but they have to maintain that physical style of play, so where you are in the fourth quarter going, can we please just leave and go home? That's what they're going to need to do week in and week out. Because, again, this is not a team that's probably as wide open as some of the other teams will be offensively. I think they'll be okay, but they do not have the depth at the playmaker position. They've lost some of their best ones over the last couple of years, especially losing Jaron Hall. And look, we'll talk about Keaton Slove at the end here, but losing Jaron Hall is going to be big for them as they step into the league.
Yeah, I mean, they had to get more physical last year because the way Baylor beat them up 2 years ago. Kalani Sitake cited that directly, that game, many times last offseason, in talking about what they needed to do. They did it, obviously. They won that rematch in Provo last year, albeit in a very close, down-to-the-wire type of a game. It's one thing to have your starters physical, but do they have the depth to maintain that physicality beyond that point for very long? I mean, if injuries were to hit, that's a question that I don't think we really know right now. But, yeah, I mean, they're more physical than perhaps some of the others rolling in, at least on day one, and that's part of their identity. That's part of their brand. So, yeah, I would imagine that's going to be important to bring on over.
They allowed that Baylor game to sit with them for a year, and it's almost like maybe they took their eye off the radar of everybody else, but they were bound and determined to match the physicality, which they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4. Use your experience with the schedule to your advantage. They've played good, tough, independent schedules over the years. If that provides them with any kind of advantage, and look, we've kind of debated on whether it will or not on the show in the past, but if you can get some sort of advantage of that experience of attrition and going through a schedule and having tough games week in and week out, use that to your advantage. Certainly make sure that, your guys are experienced. They've been through this. They know it's not going to be as much of a change for them as maybe somebody else. So use that as much as you can. But again, it is still going to be different, doing it with a schedule like they played a bunch of Pac-12 teams a couple of years ago to now being in a Power 5 conference week in and week out dealing with it.
They should be, battle tested, but, it's a new team. I think that at least from a coaching standpoint, you've got that experience of sort of what it's like. From a player standpoint, it's probably a bit scattered, but they do play some good teams year in and year out. I don't think it's the week after week that it will be in the Big 12, so there is that difference that they're still going to have to adjust to. But, they played some good schools, so, lining up against Oklahoma State or TCU or whoever, I don't think it's going to psych them out too much. I don't think it's going to psych out any of the teams, but at least as far as getting in the trenches and dogging it out, I think that they'll be well equipped to do that.
Number 3, as much Cody Epps as possible. This is your best playmaker. Get him involved as much as you can. The more touches he gets, the more creative ways you can use him will be great because he is an exciting playmaker. The guy can flat out run. We got to talk to him at Big 12 Media Days. It was one of my favorite interviews that we did. He's, the more you can get him involved, the more exciting the game's going to be, the more teams are going to have a headache. But as much Cody Epps as possible, which means keeping him healthy for 12 games, getting him involved creatively in the offense, which I don't have a worry that they'll do, but just make sure that, especially when you're in that red zone, you do some kind of wild stuff with Cody Epps because he can score when he has the ball in his hands.
I think you keep him healthy so one day he becomes our president. I was so impressed with that young man. I know that's kind of silly, but I was blown away by him. John Rice Plumlee was special too, but Cody Epps, make him as much Keaton, Slovis, et cetera, but make Cody Epps, give him the opportunities to make plays.
Yeah, he's a good player. He can get in the end zone for you. So, I think put the ball in your best player's hands is the preferred method, and he's certainly one of their best players. So, the more Epps that we see is a good thing for the Cougars.
Number 2, keep Provo loud. That is one of the toughest places to play. When people go in there, they know it. They've got a great fan base. And that also means, intimidating some of the fans on the road as well, because BYU shows out on the road. We saw it here. We've seen it in a lot of places. When BYU has a road game, they sell out their allotment. But especially you've got to own Provo. You got to win all those games, make it really difficult, especially for the teams that haven't been there before. Keep them, back on their heels and using that deafening crowd and that completely united front that they have in the stands to intimidate your opponents and keep winning at home. That's the same for everybody, but especially when you've got a place in a home field advantage like Provo, you have to use it to your advantage.
Heard really good things. Didn't get to go out there last year, but from the people that were in attendance, says one of the better atmospheres they'd been to. It obviously had an effect to some extent on the game, and I think that's one of the things you feel the best about and one of the big positives that you have rolling into this year, whereas with Houston, for example, they've got to worry about how many tickets they're selling or how great the crowds are going to be. Dana Holgerson's brought that up. You don't hear that from Kalani Sitake or that side of the new additions. I don't know how much that is a deal for Cincinnati. Now, UCF sold out their season tickets again or is in the process of doing so, and the Bounce House has a great reputation, but Provo will be a challenge for the teams that go there this year, especially if they're playing pretty well. That's just a double whammy, but that was a good scene last year, and I expect that to be the experience for a lot of teams as they roll in there.
People raved about it. The experience, the atmosphere, the mind-numbing type noise, and the fact that you felt like if you were there as a Baylor fan, you might have been the only one that was there as a Baylor fan.
Make the visiting fans feel oh so very alone. Number 1.
And the team.
Yeah. Make this Keaton Slovis's best stop. Absolutely, you have to make this, he's been at USC, and he's been at Pitt. And look, you can talk about, some of the guys that transfer all over the place. He told us his story and at Big 12 Media Days, and I suggest you go back and watch that video because it does give really interesting insight into the transfer portal and what's going on. It's where he went to Pittsburgh to play with Jordan Addison and Mark Whipple, and then he gets to Pittsburgh, and Mark Whipple and Jordan Addison are not there. You know, the Biletnikoff Award winner gone. The coordinator he went to go play for left. So he was there. It didn't work out at Pitt. Now he's at BYU. Kalani Sitake feels really confident with him, and we'll see, because he was a highly touted quarterback. He had, he had that one short run at USC where it looked like he might have been their quarterback to the future, and that certainly wasn't the case. So if they want to win, this has got to be his best stop ever.
I mean, it won't be hard to be.
Yeah,
I mean, geez.
But by far,
I think he's a bit overrated. I mean, at this point, I think that he's a good player. He's a notable player name-wise, but I think as far as the way his performances are talked about, I think we're still stuck on the name and not necessarily like the actual statistics and whatnot. But yeah, he definitely needs to have his best go-around. It's his final year. It's the last big move for him. For the foreseeable future, and certainly for his college career, and BYU's obviously putting a lot of weight on his shoulders. So yeah, they need it to work for a variety of different reasons, and if he has his best showing, then that, like everything else, if it goes well, bodes well for BYU, and if not, then that'll be a story in itself. But yeah, they need to make sure that he has a great one, and it seems like from all indications they feel good about doing so.
All right, I got a question, and I know I'm dumb asking this question. So I looked at Keaton Slovis on Wikipedia. He was an all Pac-12 quarterback, first team in 2020. Now, I also know that was COVID. USC won the South Championship. He was the freshman of the year before. What happened? Who came in? Was it JT Daniels, or was he like already there and gone? Who was the reason? What was the reason he left? Because Caleb Williams was last year.
It's coaching change.
Coaching change. Okay. Yeah. The Graham Harrell, that's right. The connection to Graham Harrell. He absolutely cherished that time.
The lack of connection to Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams playing as much into that as Graham Harrell. But yeah, I think the whole switching of coaches and the reigning Heisman Trophy winner rolling into town probably was the writing on the wall for Keaton Slovis.
Yeah, there you go. I knew Caleb Williams had to be a part of that. All right, thanks to everybody that makes us sound good and even possibly, if it's possible, look good. Thank you very much, Garrett Ross. Glad you're back today. Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, Graham Bronstein, Go Mizzou, and then also Emery Winter. Tonight, 10:30, 365 Sports Tonight on the CW, presented by Rooftop Innovations. For Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoak, all of our sponsors and guests today, and you in the chat room and the text line, good night on 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas.